Hello, 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 and welcome to the Bada Show. I am one of your hosts, Dave. Down there is my partner in crime, Chris. Chris, we got a great one planned for the Bada out there. A lot of great topics to discuss today. But first and
We
foremost,
do.
how are you?
How am I? How am
Mm-hmm.
I? It's been another week.
Really?
I swear, we can't go a week without an appliance breaking here.
Ay caramba.
We've been back in this house since
Mm-hmm.
March, and every single week something goes down. And this week three things went down.
Three?
We
It
have
always,
a
bad things
yeah
always come
we
in threes?
They
Oh
do.
my
They do.
god.
We have our
Uh-huh.
fridge. We have an outdoor fridge as part of like the little patio set. And both of them stopped working at once. So like we had the one on the patio stop working. It's like, okay, well, we don't need to use that one. We
Non-essential,
can take our time, shop around for whatever we
right?
want. Um, and then I get you buy those like a 40 pack of water, the
Yeah,
bottles, right?
sure.
Like these stupid things, these things. And I get them at the gas station outside the supermarket. So when I get them, they're very hot. It's Arizona. It's going to be 112 degrees today, and that's a conservative estimate, I'm
Okay.
sure. So I pick up the pallets of water there. They're very hot. I put them into the fridge. I open the fridge door an hour later, and the entire fridge is hot. The water heated the fridge instead of the fridge cooling the water. So it's basically a closet with a light bulb in it
Oh,
now.
wonderful.
So it's like, oh, okay, I'll put everything outside, and then I remembered, oh, that don't work either.
Mm-hmm.
So my happy ass drives out to Walmart and buys a dorm fridge. So we're living out of a dorm fridge
Right
now
on.
while we wait for parts to come
Mm-hmm.
in, which it's usually like a 2 week wait for these things because we had the fridge repaired a few months ago, but then that part they put in was faulty, so they need to do it again. So it's warranted at least. That's the silver
Okay.
lining. But it takes forever for it to get
Right.
here. So we're living out of a tiny little dorm fridge right now. I could fit about 6 bottles of water in there at a
Mm-hmm.
time. So like every time I have a bottle of water, I have to put another one in to replace it. So it's been
Yeah.
unideal. Um, and then yesterday, our irrigation system completely crapped the bed. Um, it's My wife told me that it's been down for 10 days. I didn't know it was down for 10 days,
Surprise.
but yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, everything's
Yeah.
dying. Hmm. So I go out there and we weren't living in this house for a while, so I guess some kids decided to vandalize our water system while we weren't living here, pulled dials off, ripped doors off hinges and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, which that's always a great thing, you know, with a with middle class high school kids, they have nothing else to do. So I go out there and I'm out there with pliers trying to. You ever see it like an irrigation
No,
system?
I'm
With the
I'm
dial,
unfamiliar with it. So this is all like first world problems to
I
me.
found this on
You
the
know.
web.
the Siri knows.
Okay.
Um, the dials, it's like they're. It's almost like you need the Rosetta Stone to
Oh,
program these
dang.
things. Yeah, I mean our landscaper's like a wizard. He's like, here, this is what you do. Dunk, 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 dunk. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like robotic. I go out there and it's like a dial, but the dial's gone. So I'm in there with pliers on a little nub trying to turn the thing, but you have to like turn it one way, then turn it the other to get it to do
Uh huh.
anything.
Yeah.
So we do that, and all of a sudden our driveway starts to flood. And it's like, oh, this is wonderful. So not only does this box not work, but there's a leak somewhere under the driveway. So it's like, God, do we have to dig up the driveway? Finally, I go up to the irrigation store, which is a thing that
Oh.
exists that I didn't know existed. The irrigation
Okay.
store. And met with a couple of very nice guys who walked me through everything. They were actually going to pull a dial off like a new unit to give it to me, and then order another dial to replace
Mm-hmm.
it, but they couldn't get it off because now the dials come with a safety feature, go figure, where you can't actually pull it off. So it's like, oh, well, that would have been useful in the
That
one we
would have
got now, but
stopped the middle class teenagers from damaging your property in the
right,
first place. And I like how you just
that's
really
true.
knew right away. It wasn't little kids, wasn't adults, wasn't it was
No, no.
middle class.
I'm I'm familiar with the
Tina.
neighborhood.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah. But we I, they had a model there that was similar to mine, but it also had Wi-Fi capability, so I could put it on the phone and I can control it by the phone, which actually makes sense to
sure.
me because it's not a dial that makes no sense to me. It's like hieroglyphs. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But buy that. Had a fella come out last night, hooked it all up, fixed the leak under the driveway. Cost more than I wanted it to, but it's working now. So that's one thing off the plate.
Well,
Um, but it was not fun, not pleasant, and it's like it's this constant state of fear where there's always a shoe that's about to drop
mm-hmm.
constantly. So now it's just like, okay, well that's fixed. What's
Right.
next?
Well,
You know, we moved in. The dishwasher went down. The fridge went down twice. The washer dryer went down. The air conditioner went down. It's like, oh man.
mm-hmm.
Then the air conditioner on my car goes down. It's like this is just a comedy of errors here. Somebody on NML Crossing said it sounded like. Oh no, somebody actually in the comments here said it sounded like that movie, The Money
Yes,
Pit,
yes.
where like things were falling through the ceiling and stuff. It's like it's not quite that bad, but it's not good
Yeah, the
either.
only thing to spare
Enough
you
about me.
is the carpet that holds you up in the hole on your second floor as you
That's it.
slowly sink
That's
down.
it.
So,
It's
well,
true. So if I start to sink here, you'll know where I'm
that's it,
going.
baby. Hopefully things will get better
Ah,
for you. I mean, for crying out
eh,
loud. And to be honest with you, the unsung hero here is your landscaper because let's think about this, right? Some
mhm,
people are put on this earth for great things, put people on the moon, cure
sure.
diseases. I mean, the list goes
Hmm.
on.
Talk about comics on the internet.
Exactly. Thank you very much. But this landscaper, he's a poet
Save
when
the
it
day.
comes
Save the
to
day.
handling the
Hmm.
knobs on an irrigation
He's a
system.
he's a
He's a
wizard.
wizard.
He's an absolute
Bless
wizard.
his little
Yeah.
heart, whoever he is, wherever
Hmm.
he is, whatever he's doing. So make sure you next time you see him, give him a warm water.
Oh, this has been in the other fridge.
I swear.
This has been in the closet with the light
Uh
bulb
huh.
in
There
it.
you go. Biggity bam, biggity boom.
So how's your week been?
My week. Well, uh, not to talk about my week as a whole, but let's just talk about this morning. Now,
Not wrong.
well, okay, hold your horses there, Kimasabe. But I mean, I
Horses.
do my best thinking in the shower. Are you, you
Most
know,
do.
are you familiar with like 80s sitcoms when they do the flashback and the screen kind of goes wavy and maybe
Yeah.
things turn into a black and white montage of memories of the
Hmm.
past? That's what
And everybody has weird
yeah,
mustaches
there you
and
go.
yeah.
That's my mind as I am, washing my body. There
Scrubbing
we
up.
go. And I don't want to bring any doom and gloom to the show. This might be better served if we did like a Halloween episode or something. But listen, you know,
It's
this
Summerween,
is
isn't
summer.
it? Isn't that what they're saying on the
Okay,
internet?
great. I'm
There you
glad I'm
go.
on time with something. Summerween. But this is a little
Hmm.
bit
We are
of a
time warp.
darker thing. And my thoughts this morning were, and me and you kind of have a kinship in a weird way. Not that we wanted it, but we both did projects
Hmm.
with people that passed away,
We're both pod
pod
widows. Yeah.
widows, right? I think
Yeah.
sometimes when someone I know dies, like, and I'm not a religious person per se. I'm not trying to like whatever imply anything here, but I got this weird like guilty conscience that maybe that dead
Hmm.
person is gonna like visit me before they go to wherever it is they're supposed to go. And I'm like, I better be
Okay.
on my best behavior. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because the last thing I want this departed loved one to see is me picking my nose or just, I don't know, whatever. But then I was thinking, all right, so if this kind of weird stigma applies to people I know that have passed away, well, nowadays, a lot of folks make friendships online. So would that
Hmm.
also be applicable to, an online friend, for example, like you or I? So
Hmm.
let's say I kicked the bucket. Do you think that I would
Hmm.
hover over you and watch you before I went into the world wide web of the great beyond? You know what I mean?
I I think you would watch and never
Oh,
leave
maybe. I might
because
haunt
I'm
you.
very fascinated.
Well,
I'm very
well, then I'm
fascinated.
thinking, like, how would it play out? So, Red Sox fan 422 would be thinking, lay off the cake, fat ass. Or maybe Ohio Forever would comment, That's not what showers were designed for. Stop doing that. You know what I mean? Before they went on to their final destination. But I'm wondering if that yet again applies to all people, everybody that you might know, when they do decide to leave the earthly plane. I don't know, but these are the kind of things I think about while I am making myself fresh and clean. You know?
Well, you're talking to someone with high levels of paranoia, so I think people who are alive can
Oh
watch
my
me.
gosh. Check that
Yeah,
irrigation
so it's
system. There
like
might be some Big Brother cameras in
there
there.
might be some bugs. Yeah, what was that? I've never seen that. Was a Truman Show?
Oh,
Was that the
yes,
movie?
yes,
I never
yes.
seen it, but I think it's a similar concept. Yeah, that's I feel like that could be a thing. Of course, it's
Mm-hmm.
irrational, but so am I. So yeah, dead people, sure. I would think about that. Yeah.
Sorry, I paused for a second because I'm thinking, who the hell would want to watch you? Who?
Well, how many people we have watching now?
No, no, I
Zero?
dig. I understand. We're going to be talking about comics and stuff eventually. Don't get me wrong, everybody. Hold your horses. You know, calm down. But I mean, just in general life, like just watching you just kind of meander around the
Oh, yeah,
house, or
yeah. Sit on a
yeah,
couch, be on the internet, play a video game.
you
Yeah,
know,
it's deal with your go to the irrigation store. People who wouldn't want to go to the
yeah.
irrigation store with
There
me.
you go. Like I said,
Tag along.
Ohio forever or whatever was sitting in your passenger seat
Mm-hmm.
as you
Mm-hmm.
drove there. It's like, boy,
Oh yeah.
this is it. This is
Mm-hmm.
what
New York Giants 6969 is gonna be coming along. Yeah.
exactly. Now, real quick, I guess to kind of move on from that. And by the way, if anybody out there has thoughts of their own while they shower, just weird random things, you can always
Anytime.
email us, let us know
Mm-hmm.
about them. We'd like to hear about it. badabinshow@gmail.com. Get that out of the way real quick, like.
So, some of my best podcasts take place in the
Oh,
shower.
really?
They're just not
Do you
recorded.
talk to yourself in the shower for real?
I talk to
Out
myself all the
loud?
time. No,
Oh, okay. That's what I
no,
thought you were
it's
implying.
internal
I
monologue.
thought, yeah,
No,
okay. Like, hey, everybody, welcome
no.
to No Man Lands Crossing, NML
Hey, how's it
Crossing.
going,
Yeah,
everybody?
exactly. Hey, everybody. And you're talking into your shower head or something. And I was like, well,
This is the wet
yeah,
installment.
that might be
Yes,
worth seeing if you're recently passed
it
away.
might be.
But everything else, I don't know. I keep bringing up the word horses, 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 hold your horses, everything else. And
I thought you were going a different direction when you
I
mentioned the
wasn't going to
horse.
bring it up, but since I could pick up on your vibe there that you're like, this is where he's going, I might as well go there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love action figures. I collect action figures. Can't get enough of the thing. Much to my wife's dismay, I love them. Hunks of
Mm-hmm.
plastic, plastic crack. For a couple years now, since I've been collecting the McFarlane DC Multiverse line, I've been like, hey man, and I've only commented about it online a couple times because I almost was weary should they make the figure that the conditions wouldn't be right. But I've said I want a Jonah Hex fig from McFarlane. There's been other iterations of it in the past from the Mattel, the DC Universe line. I have a little statue actually from the movie up there. So there's still some paraphernalia out there in the universe, just not enough, in my humble opinion. So I really wanted McFarlane to make
Mm-hmm.
one, but conditions. One thing about McFarlane figs are I like getting them on Amazon, the evil overlord, because you can pre-order, you don't have to pay right away
Sure.
until it ships. Price guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So if the price goes down over the course of you waiting for it to ship, you pay that lower price. And
Sure.
shipping is free. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And easy as hell to return if you decide you
There we
want to.
go. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Great point. So I wanted it to be an Amazon figure, and another thing that I really wanted was it to be a solo item because a lot of times they'll package these things with another fig you might not necessarily want, double the price,
Sure.
triple the price, whatever. It's up there. You know what I mean? So Jonah Hex was announced from the All Star Western New 52 line, which was a decent book. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I would like maybe a more classic take on him, but it's cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so what happens? McFarlane.com exclusive double pack with the horse. That's where we kept talking about horse, people. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay an extra premium to get the figure. I had to pay shipping. All that happened and occurred this
Oh, I
morning.
didn't even
Oh,
consider
yes.
that.
Well, you're the one who brought up the Amazon
Okay.
stuff, and I'm telling you, man, it's just just the returns. There's another thing. If I get to return it, there's a whole hassle too. Imagine it comes all dinged and dented and
Sure.
damaged.
Danger.
Because I
Yeah.
intend on keeping this boxed. I am a grown man and I know how to treat my toys. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm not unpacking this thing. So anyway, I bet I did it. I ordered it this morning. Very, very expensive. It hurt my feelings. I was searching for like a credit card with just the right amount of money left on it. Where I'm like, oh, all these sons of bees are maxed out.
Googling McFarlane coupon
Well, I got
code.
one. I did. I got a 10% off
There you
coupon
go.
because I've never bought from there before, and they had like a welcome. So I
Okay.
used
Oh,
the
welcome.
code welcome10. There you go, internet.
Hey,
Free code.
you should have tried welcome
I
50,
know.
just
I
in
know
case.
exactly. Oh my God. Where were you when I needed you? Oh, that's right. You were
Mm,
Skyping me saying, I'm ready. When are we going to live stream? And
it's
I'm
true.
like, hold on. Take it easy. I was going to say,
Hold the horses. I'm
I was
getting a
going to say the
horse.
H word again and I avoided it, but you just ran right in here and went
Twice.
Mr. Red on me. But yeah, but anyway,
Hmm.
that's all ordered and ready to go. It's obscene, but I need it, man. I need it. Like
There are so few pleasures in life. You gotta take what you can get.
I got a lot. Have you not looked behind me? I mean, if I did like a full scan of this entire wall behind me,
Oh
I
yeah.
get quite a few things to my left and to my right and everything else and in
Hmm.
boxes and in storage and comics up the Yahoo. I mean, when is enough enough? You know?
Never.
Exactly. There we go. You just said it. Never. But anyway, let's
Hmm.
move on to some comics talk, man, because I'm sure that's what
Cool.
people are tuning in for when they tune in, if they're not live, but maybe they check us out later. So
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
thinking it'd be a great time for us to get back into a segment that we like to call the Sweet Spot books.
Hmm.
Now, for the uninitiated who've never seen our show before, these are the kind of reads that automatically transport us and remind us why collecting is great, why we love the medium, what sucked us into this whole thing, this addiction in the first place. Could be a multitude
Hmm.
of reasons. No answer is a wrong answer. But the moment that we see this, whether we look at the book, see the cover, sniff it, anything, and I mentioned sniff it because comics smell great, but
They
they
used to.
used to, yeah, exactly. That must. Oh my God, bottle that. I'd pay more than I paid for
Hmm.
that hex figure.
There you
But
go.
anyway, they automatically make you feel good, make you feel like a kid again, and you're
Hmm.
there. So
Closest thing we have to a time machine.
yeah, exactly. I think it's a
Hmm.
big part of the whole collection process too, and why we collect comics to begin with. You know what I mean? They
Oh
always
yeah.
remind you of a happy time in your life.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this time around, we picked a couple books. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay.
And why don't you do that? Why don't you lead off with the book that makes you a Gentile fellow?
Okie dokie. Yeah, we're going a little bit outside the box
Okay.
here. I don't know if people would consider Gen 13 Volume 1 Number 1 to be a sweet spot book for anybody. Um, and I read it recently, and it's not a great book. It's a lot of the thing I used to say about the early Wildstorm or the homage studio stuff, the Jim Lee, corner fiefdom of Image, was that so many of their books felt like they were pretty much made in a factory, like put together by committee. Um, where like you look at Youngblood, which warts and all, you could tell it was something that Rob Liefeld believed in with his full heart. A lot of them were supposed to be Teen Titans characters for his DC Titans pitch, but these were characters that were close to him, near and dear to him. Eric Larson's Dragon, you could tell he's been drawing that since high school. That he really cared about this character and saw great things in him. So regardless of the quality of the books or whether or not you like them, you couldn't deny that there was heart there. The Jim Lee corner was different. Jim Lee corner felt like, okay, well, this is working at Marvel, so I'm going to do the same exact thing with my own characters. And you can look at things like Wildcats, where, and when Reggie and I covered this on the treadmill, we talked about this. It's like every character is an archetype. You have like the average dude, which you have your Cyclops character and Spartan. You have your weird badass character, kind of an outsider and grifter, which is basically Gambit-ish. You have the one with the claws, because every team had to have one with the claws. You have the giant character. You got the magical girl and you have the ninja girl. It's like it's committee. It's basically exactly what was going on in every high selling book. It was just Jim Lee's owned version of it. And Gen 13, similar. You think about the Gen 13 characters, and the one that sticks out to me is Freefall, Roxy. And that wasn't even a Jim Lee character. That was a J. Scott Campbell character that he drew and pitched to be added to Gen 13, and eventually, not eventually, before it even went out, she was added. So I mean, the other ones just feel very blah. And so the book itself is dry. It's not the best thing in the world, but the reason it takes me back is the way in which I procured it. When Gen 13 was coming out, it was all over Wizard, all over the mags, all over the comic shops. People were talking about it as like this next big thing. And back then, in the days before getting a discount for having a pull list was something you had to pay a premium for, at least where I come from. If you wanted a monthly pull, it was like, depending on how many books it was, it could be like $10 a month, where they'll guarantee you your books. And even then, it wasn't 100%. Um, that's actually one of the things that turned me off from Image to begin with, because I couldn't get a copy of Savage Dragon #1. We went to like 4 or 5 comic shops within walking distance, because there were 4 or 5 comic shops within walking distance back then, and none of them had it. It was sold out right away. People were just nuts for anything with the Image logo on it. Now, Gen 13, similarly, sold out everywhere. And when we went to high school, junior high schools, they meld together into one high school, right? So you suddenly, you're not a sphere of influence, but your circle grows. It's like you were used to just living in this little part of town, but then you meet people from this part of town, and then everything kind of grows. And I remember a friend of mine and I lamenting the fact that we couldn't get Gen 13 #1. And people from the other junior high school were like, oh, okay, well, we know that they have it at a smoke shop, not a comic shop, not a trading card store, a smoke shop, because comics were everywhere back then. And the thing of it is that it was like a hour and a half bike ride away. So it was like, oh crap, we gotta go to this smoke shop, this random smoke shop. They might have been pulling our chains. They might have been lying about it, just seeing if we'll go to this place. Um, but we did. We did. It was I don't remember what day of the week it was. I think it was a Friday. I don't think we had school the next day, but we start on our trek up there. We were going up to Ronkonkoma from Oakdale, and halfway up there, the chain on my bike broke. So it didn't just fall off. It was the chain on my bike. I had such a piece of crap bike. We were broke. My dad found it in the garbage. Unfortunately, it was the garbage of one of my classmates who recognized his bike when he saw me on it, and a lot of fun was had at my expense. But the chain would always fall off. But this time it actually broke. And it's like, oh God, we are like a 45-minute bike ride from home. We're only halfway to this smoke shop. What do we do? So we get off the bikes and we start pushing them up to this smoke shop. We get up there finally. And it's because like we could have called, but I mean, can you imagine calling like a smoke shop being like, hey, do you have Gen 13 #1? Be like, what the hell are you talking about? So we go up, we finally get there. It's getting dark out. Neither of us were like allowed to go that far, so it's like, oh, we're in trouble already. No cell phones, of course. It was like 1994, 1995. No cell phones. Um, and we weren't gonna, all the money we had was for the comics, so it's like we couldn't go to a payphone. We weren't gonna call collect. So we get to the damn store, and we find Gen 13 #1, but it was a second print. It's a second print because back then things went to second print because they had to go to second print. It wasn't like now where it's like on release day, Marvel releases a press release saying we're going to go to third print on a book that just came out
Right.
today. Back then, you actually needed it. So we picked up the book, and on the way home, my dad pulls up next to us on the highway, and he's pissed. He's super mad. I don't even think he was living with us at the time. And like, I guess my mom like called him, was like, "Hey, your son is gone. Go find him." So he is like mad as a hornet, screaming at me on the side of the damn road while I'm holding this stupid Gen 13
Yeah.
comic. The busted bike is
Mhm.
tossed in the back of the minivan. It's like it was a hellish ride home. Um, and then we get home and I read the damn thing and it's like, this isn't very good. So it wasn't, and it was a second print anyways. And of course, back then it's like, if it's not the first print, you're buying
Mhm.
garbage. You're just buying paper at that point. I'm guessing right now the second print is probably worth a little bit more than the first print because it's in shorter supply and we kind of have hindsight on that kind of thing now. But um, it's like I'll never forget that day. That just the weird camaraderie you have with fellow comic fans back then, where it's literally you're at the lunch table and it's like, oh yeah, I saw that issue at a smoke
Yeah.
shop, this weird smoke shop in Ronkonkoma. It's like, what? Okay. And I'm sure there were probably copies of this damn thing at 5 different locations between us and that smoke shop, but we just knew about that one
Sure.
place. So we went to it. And I don't know, reading that this week was another. It was probably one of those stupid things I shouldn't have done, especially with the way my mind has been with being smacked around by a midlife
Yeah.
crisis here. I probably shouldn't go back to these sweet spot books so often. But I don't know. I read it in trade the other day, and it's weird because Gen 13 took forever to come out, just like everything Image back in the
Mhm.
day. Um, I was actually reading, I think it was in the Peter David book, where I think in late 1992, Image had surpassed DC as like the number two publisher, at least on paper, with pre-orders. But most of the Image's books that were pre-sold didn't come out. So a lot of that money, I guess, got refunded or whatever. So because DC didn't actually lose their spot as number two. Um, but this book took so long to come out, you could actually see J. Scott Campbell improving by the issue. Like it looked sloppy, comparably sloppy
Mhm.
from issue 1 to issue 5. It looks like prime J. Scott Campbell. It's like, how did that happen in 5 issues? It's insane. But definitely, just an interesting, well, to me, story to reflect upon, and a day I'll never forget because it was just a totally different time in
Yeah.
comics.
Absolutely.
It was rumor and innuendo about where things might
Mhm.
be, the trip up there, the bike thing breaking. It's like, God, such a comedy of errors, but definitely a heartwarming thing to think back
Yeah.
on.
And as you mentioned, it's kind of weird now because, listen, we can harken back to these old times, pre-internet,
Hmm.
pre-cell phones, technology devices, what have you. And you know what? It's a good feeling, and they provided a lot of great memories, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah,
Yet,
everything felt less ephemeral. Everything felt more
there you
concrete.
go. But what I was going to lead
Yeah.
into was if you take away all my things now, I'd be like, ugh,
Hmm.
like for real?
Oh yeah,
I
for
need it.
sure.
I need all this stuff, man. I need my cell phone. I need the internet. I need,
Oh
everything.
yeah.
But yeah, man, we existed for so long without that. And then operating on
Hmm.
hunts, especially on innuendo and rumors. And,
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned you could have made a phone
By
call,
people
but
you can't
I
trust.
know, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just heard
Yeah.
the whisper, you know. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. It was in the lunchroom. Someone said, "Yeah, I saw a copy over at this
Hmm.
whorehouse in Texas."
Yep.
I mean, essentially, the smoke shop is just as taboo and forbidden when you're of that age, you know.
Well, it's like the Playboy in the
Yeah,
woods, you know.
it's so funny you say that because there's gonna be a lot of coincidences going on during this segment. Trust me. But
Hmm.
a friend of mine once said there must be like a Johnny Appleseed of porn in the woods.
Yep. Everybody had that.
Yeah, like
Yep.
no matter what town you lived in, whatever era it
Hmm.
was, you could go out in the middle of the woods and you'd find like scattered random pages of like Hustler magazine or something. So you,
Yep. A page ripped out of the Victoria's
yeah, so
Secret.
he
Yeah.
envisioned some guy with like the pot on his head, just being like, wee, wee, woo, here you go, world, you know.
And hopefully he's throwing pages
Yeah.
and not something
Yeah,
else.
I know. And then to think about it in a more gross fashion, imagine all the homeless people in the woods. It's like that was their primary form of entertainment. It was like, Johnny Appleseed
Hmm.
came. We have the newest issue of Hot Tail Mag. So yeah, but
Hmm.
oh my god. And J. Scott Campbell, though, like you mentioned, you saw his art improve.
Hmm.
Prime J. Scott Campbell doesn't get much more. Okay, so the 90s, you can define it as really cheap copycat crap art
Hmm.
or some really illustrious, awesome talents that emerged at that point in time and produced some
Hmm.
fantastic imagery. He, of course, is in the latter there,
Oh yeah, he's
where he was
fantastic.
just, when he was on, he was special and he was, you recognized his work immediately.
Hmm.
So that
Oh
was
yeah,
definitely a treat, you know? I think
for
he's still
sure.
doing covers though, right?
Oh, I'd imagine
Yeah,
because I know he did covers for Amazing Spider-Man shortly
right.
after One More Day,
Yeah.
maybe, and they were the best part of the book.
Yeah, well, that was the J. Michael Straczynski stuff, right?
Post Straczynski left after the last thing he did was One More Day,
Okay.
but J. Scott Campbell I think did some
He might have.
JMS
Maybe
too because
yeah.
yeah he did the I think you're right. I think he did the first issue where like Spidey's like on like a webbed ball of bad guys or
Yes.
something. I think Campbell did that
I
one.
even
Yeah.
had that as a poster, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
I
very
love that
cool.
image. Who knows where the poster is
Hmm.
now? It's probably scattered in the woods with the all the other discarded
Could
porn.
be with
Yeah,
Appleseed.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I even
Hmm.
had it in a little frame. It's a beautiful, beautiful image.
Oh, I mean, he's an amazing
Yeah.
talent.
Well, that's wonderful.
And I remember,
That's great.
yeah, I didn't know that this was him. But the first issue of Nintendo Power I
Mm-hmm.
had on the back page it had someone pitching a game called Lock Arm, I think, and it was J. Scott Campbell
Really?
back in like 1988, and he drew up these character portraits and profiles and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Definitely not as polished as he would become, of course, because he was a kid. But it's just so weird that his art's been with me forever, and even going back to a random issue of Nintendo Power.
Sure. Yeah.
Pretty
No,
cool
that is
stuff.
pretty cool. Nintendo Power is a funny thing. I remember I had the first issue because I had the
Hmm.
subscription when it first came out, and then I found out recently
Hmm.
that's actually worth some money,
Oh yeah, a lot of them are.
and I don't have it anymore. So whoopsie, didn't know. You know.
Yeah, I probably have 100 issues of that, like in a storage unit up the block.
Oh, okay,
So
right on.
I haven't looked at them forever, but
All
they're
right.
there.
Did you buy any paraphernalia while you were in the smoke shop? You should have gotten yourself some cigars, something to start your journey as a young smoker.
Yeah, I mean, my hair was already turning
Ah,
gray, but I didn't have any facial hair yet, so I still was very
okay,
boyish.
all
So
right.
I don't think I would have gotten away
Well,
with it.
Chris, if you're willing to move on, I
I am. I will cede my
well,
time
let
to
me tell
you.
you something, man. When I said coincidence, I wasn't
Hmm.
kidding. This is big time, like huge. But the
Uh-oh.
comic I'm going to bring up today is, and you're going to be able to guess because I feel like I've talked about it so many times to so many people on so many
Hmm.
different formats, no matter what kind of podcast I was doing, conversations I was
Hmm.
having. And so much so that this week, when I was trying to think of my sweet spot comic that I wanted to discuss, I kept trying to avoid it.
Hmm.
All right. I was like, let me
Okay.
just bring up something else this time. And then I stopped and I thought,
Because it was
well,
obvious.
I think to anybody who
Or.
knows me, it is. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
yet again, because the fact I've brought it up so much, I'm like, I should really start focusing on some other books that make me happy. But yet, I'm sitting there and I go, let me just get it out of the way. I might as well because the
Hmm.
love for it is so dang pure. It's so
Hmm.
it's so immaculate. You know what I mean? And now to the whole thing with coincidences is that I discovered it where else but in a smoke shop as a young boy
Hey.
because I grew up in a town called Webster, Massachusetts, and anybody who ever lived in Webster in the 80s knew that
Hmm.
towards the edge of town, towards the border of town, there was a railroad track, and on one side of that track you had Chet's Smoke Shop, and on the other side of that track you had something called Store 24. Those were
Hmm.
some primo places to buy comics in the mid to late 80s. Later on, we did get a hobby
Okay.
shop that sold cards, A&G Hobbies. They sold new comics. That's where I discovered things like New Warriors #1, for example, that rocked my world. But prior to that, man, I was on the regular walking into Chet's Smoke Shop, to buy my comics. But without further ado, the issue that I am going to discuss today is not only a sweet spot comic, but a book that I consider one of the best, if not the best, issue of all time. And that is Swamp Thing, Volume 2, number 56. The story is titled My
Mm-hmm.
Blue Heaven. Now, imagine a young boy, probably like maybe 10 years old. I'm in the smoke shop perusing the books. You look up, you see those magazines that Johnny Appleseed will eventually, you know, disperse
Disperse.
throughout the woods with the black bags on them. But you look down and
Mm-hmm.
you got all
Mm-hmm.
your different, newsstand comics, Superman, superheroes, everything of the like, even some Archie. But then all of a sudden you see this cover. Oh my lord, it's striking the skull. And in the eye socket, what's sitting there? Swamp Thing, but he's blue. As a matter of fact, everything on the cover is pretty much blue. As far as like the title, that's
Mm-hmm.
not green or whatever. And you're like, this is Swamp Thing. Doesn't he belong in a swamp? Now, I wasn't really into Swamp Thing at the time, but I knew this looked dangerous. This looked a little provocative. So, my God, I wanted it in my hands immediately, and that's what I did. Despite the fact it says for mature readers, I, I slapped down my 70.
You're mature
Yeah,
enough. Yeah.
10 years old, whatever. I slapped down my 75 cents. The guy in Chet's Smoke Shop, which wasn't Chet, says, "Here you go, kid." I bring it home. I start reading it. My mom walks in my room. "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm reading a comic." "Okay, have fun." You know? No one cares what I'm reading. And this is some really dark stuff, man. The story itself takes place after Swamp Thing apparently dies being napalmed in Gotham City. Now, the whole thing leading up to this, that I, of course, found out after, was to just primo Alan Moore, wherein Swamp Thing had a relationship with Abby, and a tabloid photographer had taken photos of them, released the photos, published them, and they got in trouble for indecency, because he's a plant, she's a human, and then she gets locked up in Gotham City. So Swamp Thing goes for his lady, just as we all would. Don't mess with our better halves, okay? I don't care if Batman's there. I'm storming into town and I'm taking my woman out of there. Which results in a big battle. Of course, Batman always gets his booty whooped because Batman is second rate compared to Swamp Thing. But thanks to Lex Luthor, they decide to destroy him, as I mentioned, with the napalm. So you think Swamp Thing is good and dead, he's gone. Think again. He escaped his body and jumped into space, into the cosmos, where he landed on a planet that has a form of plant life. So there he is on this blue planet, hence the title My Blue Heaven, but he is alone, utterly and completely alone. And he has to occupy his time. So that now he can create different things with the plant life, much like he could on Earth. He decides to make constructs of Homa, Louisiana, things that he's familiar with, Constantine, Abby herself. But he's really just like you would be in the shower, holding these
Mm-hmm.
conversations with himself. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And he's like, well, if I stay here, I'm gonna just go deeper into the spiral of madness. I got to try to escape. I've got to get out of here. It's a beautiful issue. It's a really deep, I was going to say like a psychological thing going on where you almost put yourself in the situation. How many times have we said the hypothetical, "Hey, you're alone on a desert island. What are you bringing with you? Or what are you going to do?"
Sure.
He
Sure.
literally is. He's on a planet out there in God knows where, having to try to occupy his time, and just a deterioration of his emotional state, his mental state. It's quite a thing to read. And it just, as a 10-year-old kid, man, I was like, this is what comics can do? Like, for real? I thought, yeah, bang,
Yeah.
boom, punch the bad guy, hostess ad, letters page, end of the day. You know what I mean? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Superman wins. But here we are with this really, really deep, dark content, you know? And I
Hmm.
thank my lucky stars that that cover struck me so hard. And of course, when you're 10, 11 years old, you see something with a skull on it. You're like, okay, that's cool.
Who doesn't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
that?
right,
Yeah.
right. You know, and of course it looked different. It looked unique. It looked out of the ordinary, of course, because yet again,
Mhm.
my knowledge of Swamp Thing was just, all right, he's a muck monster. You know, what's going on here?
Sure. What can you do with
But you
that?
know what? The
Yeah.
other thing too is, pun intended, it also planted the seed for me to kind of open my eyes to different takes. And this is something that we've discussed in the past too, like alternative versions of traditional hero. I
Hmm.
think I like them more because of this comic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's a wonderful issue. I own multiple copies of it. I recommend it to anybody because you know what? It's not hard to find. You can find it in the
No,
bins.
it's a cheap one
It's
too.
cheap.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. It's cheap. It's
Yeah.
easy to get. But it's one of those books where I would always say, based on story alone, it should be worth $1 billion. Among other Swamp Thing fans, is it their favorite? No. I got the personal story that also goes along with it. I think that adds to the whole love of it and the nostalgia factor of it. I get it.
Sure.
But I mean, really, if you look at Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing, there's a lot of beautiful, great, just classic stories in there. But for me, Swamp Thing number 56 is the cream of the crop. So if you can, check it out. And I'd like to know what you think about it. So reach out, badabinshow at
For sure.
gmail.com. Whether it's Swamp Thing or whether it's Gen 13, you got any opinions on that? Anything we discussed, we'd like to hear about it. But man, another reason why I buy multiple copies of this, it just makes me happy. It brings me back.
There
I'm
you
that
go.
little kid in the smoke shop inhaling fumes, buying my comics.
Is Chet still
I don't
open?
know.
Is it
I
still in
might have to look
business?
into that right now, as a matter of
You might
fact.
have to. You might have
Yeah, I'm
to.
going to. I don't know if I can talk and do this at the same time, but I'm going to try. But this is, we'll give it a shot. Let's see here. Is there anything you'd like to add about my book while I do this so I don't fill up the time with empty
No, I think
air?
I know I read that and I enjoyed it. I'm. It's so weird. I've done so many of these shows that I think Reggie and I covered it on the
Uh huh.
treadmill.
I don't know. I
I
think I would have
think
remembered that if you did, to be honest with you.
I have to go through our back catalog here to find out, but I could have sworn we did. I could be completely wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before about that kind of thing, which is
Mm-hmm.
bizarre because you'd figure if you spend days and hours um, researching and discussing something that you'd remember stuff like that, but not always, I
Well, I got
guess.
the answer you seek. Chet's is closed. So I don't know when it went out, when it went away. And even Store
Ah,
24 now, I think, is something different. I haven't been back to Webster, Mass. In many, many years. Even beyond my last
hmm,
trip to Massachusetts. It's been probably decades. So, but all the fun had on
okay.
those railroad tracks and me and my buddies, much like akin to you and your friends riding the bikes,
Oh
we would
yeah.
just walk those tracks for miles.
Oh, so yeah, we did that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that was basically the interstate for kids.
Yeah.
It's like you get off and there's Sayville, there's Blue Point.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you got around. You didn't have to worry about traffic. Um, you hardly had to worry about trains out
Right,
there,
right.
like once an hour
Yeah.
maybe. So really, and you had all those primo woods to check
Oh,
out.
true. Dude, the things we got away with, holy moly. Like, for real, I
Oh
remember
yeah,
just being out late at night walking the train tracks, or like we found
oh yeah,
like a bridge, and underneath the bridge it was like a little like cubby, and it was like over a little like river. And man, we'd go up,
sure.
hang out in there, and talk about how we wish we could
Oh
get
yeah,
girlfriends and stuff. And we're a bunch of losers in the early '90s,
oh
just
yeah,
hanging
yeah.
out, train tracks. That's our clubhouse, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Definitely,
damn.
definitely.
Definitely we were losers. No, but anyway, you get my thing here. It's all,
Oh, I do. I do. I mean, these are the warm
yeah,
fuzzies,
for
man.
real.
This is what adolescence used to be before technology took
Yeah.
over.
And then,
I mean, that's not to say we weren't like we played video games and
mhm,
stuff. We were not. It's not like our parents and our parents' parents saying go outside and touch grass or anything because we were inside a
yeah.
lot, but we also went out. And it was different
Yeah.
times.
And probably the reason why I'm a helicopter parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one of the things about living in Arizona. It's like you literally can't go outside without becoming a splotch on the pavement
Mm,
because it's so damn hot
right.
out. Um, Back then, you can always put more clothes on if it gets cold,
Hmm.
right? You can't take more clothes off if it gets
True.
hot.
That's
You know,
how I live
you
my
can
life.
only be so
Uh-huh.
undressed. Yeah, so I mean, even in the winter, you throw on a coat, you got your mittens, you got your whatevers, and you're good.
Hmm.
But here in the summer, like I don't like to take the dogs out in the backyard. It's so damn hot.
I couldn't imagine, man. I remember growing up and you'd see in the movies like E.T. or whatever, like they'd be trick-or-treating
Hmm.
and they didn't have coats on. And you're like, wait,
Oh
what?
yeah.
Where is this?
No, that's the weird thing, man. Because like growing up, you couldn't go out with your costume on because it was too
Hmm.
cold. But here, it's almost too hot to wear a costume.
A
It's
lot of
like I
togas.
got to put a yeah, yeah. It's like I'm a lifeguard. Yeah, everybody's a lifeguard
Right.
because you're not gonna wear like the He-Man costume with the fake skin suit
Oh,
and all
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. You're not gonna
Ben Cooper
you're gonna
need not apply in Arizona. Heck no. Yeah.
you're gonna smell like a blown out tire. It's like hot
Right.
rubber.
Yeah. I remember like Karate Kid. They in high school in the movie, of course, they'd walk between classes
Mhm.
outside, and I was like, "What is
Oh
going
yeah.
on? They have high schools with like this open campus. Like, is this even the United
Hmm.
States? What's happening here?" But yeah, you grow up in the Northeast, man. You don't have that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So
Nope. You're in a
yeah.
citadel. That's your everything is
But
there.
yeah, man, God forbid, like, I can remember the same age I'm picking up Swamp Thing 56. I'm watching, like,
Hmm.
Robocop. Dude, that
Hmm.
movie, I don't know if you've seen it, because you're weird like that.
No. Yeah.
You've seen Robocop? Oh,
No.
okay, all right. Well, anyway, it's very, very
I'm.
graphic.
I saw him show up at a wrestling pay-per-view once to save Sting, but
Oh, okay.
that's
Well,
about
there
it.
you go. But anyway, my point being, like, dude, the stuff I got away with as a kid, and
Oh
my
yeah.
mom, God bless her, her soul, but dude, like, it was different times. That's all I can say. It was different times. Like, yeah, just stay
I,
busy. Leave me alone.
no, I mean,
You know?
8 or 9 years old reading the ElfQuest orgy
Ooh,
issue. I mean, it was a comic book, so how bad
it
could it
should be
be?
scattered in the woods. Let me tell you that right now.
That's where I
Oh,
found it. No,
all right.
no, but I mean, it's like you're literally reading a scene of a pre-war orgy
Mm-hmm.
when you're 8 or 9 years
Ooh.
old, and it's like you just you don't even recognize the significance of
Yeah,
anything.
right, right. Yeah, it goes over your head a
Yeah,
little bit. You're not really aware of what all this stuff means, I guess.
hopefully
Maybe.
not.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. They're just having a party,
Yeah, yeah.
and it must be
It's
hot in there.
feisty. It's they're wrestling. That's what they're doing. They're
That's
wrestling.
it. That's it. It's a competition.
All right, let's get our brains out of the gutter here and move on, shall
Okay.
we? Because I've been
Mm-hmm.
texting you non-stop this week. I mean, I'm borderline. You
Mm-hmm.
probably need a restraining order because I picked up a trade. I've been very excited about it, and I
Oh
didn't
yes.
buy the single issues. So, and
Mm-hmm.
even when I first saw they were being released, I'm like, this sounds like a series I can get into. So, trade
Interesting.
gets
Yeah.
released, I bite, and that is a book called, I get a little bit of glare here, Uncanny Spider-Man, a Cy Spurrier joint.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's been well documented on this show and elsewhere. I don't really get into the X-Men anymore
Mm-hmm.
because, dude, it's so heavy, man. It's so much going on. It's like we talked
Mm-hmm.
about with the Legion of Superheroes. Like, you need
Oh
an
yeah.
encyclopedia even to dive in to even understand what's going on nowadays.
The creators need that
Yeah,
encyclopedia.
you're right. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was weary. I'm thinking mutant stuff, but dude, Nightcrawler is Spider Man? That just.
How could that go wrong?
It did.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. It did. And when I read the first issue, I immediately texted you. I'm like, this is outstanding.
Oh yeah. It's
This
great.
is
Yeah.
friggin' great because it didn't bog you down with a bunch of backstory, right?
Sure.
It pretty much summed up what was going on with the whole mutant universe in the matter of a couple panels, saying that
Mm-hmm.
Orcus had taken a stand against mutants for humanity, and that Professor X had let out a psychic call to everybody to leave the planet. Some mutants weren't affected by this, Nightcrawler being one of them. But since now Sentinels roam the Earth and mutants are in serious danger, he decides to, with Peter Parker's blessing, dress up as Spider-Man and patrol the streets of New York City. So this first issue, man, was just like, this is great because not only did it not, get me more confused or make it so
Sure.
I immediately didn't know what was going on. The premise was on
Yeah.
point. Bing, bang, boom. Everything was succinct. The explanations, everything great. I am so in. Then issue 2 happened. Okay. They bring in Mystique. Mystique, for about 3 issues afterwards, is just running through the streets, being chased down by Nightcrawler, screaming incessantly, "Give me back my baby!" And no, the dingo didn't
Okay.
eat the baby. The baby is trying to catch her in the form of Nightcrawler. For those who didn't know, spoiler alert, Nightcrawler is her is her child. There's a whole lot of, speaking of ElfQuest, not as graphic, but Silver Sable has a thing for Kurt, and that gets played out.
Who doesn't?
That's the other thing. Everybody does.
Everybody wants to bang Nightcrawler.
It's kind of like the whole thing with Dick Grayson and Nightwing's Derriere, where that gets talked about incessantly. Yeah. Everybody wants a piece of Nightcrawler. And to be honest with you, I have not finished it. It's become such a difficult read. I'm hurt. I am personally offended because Cy Spurrier, I think, is an excellent writer. I think he does a fantastic...
Oh, he's wonderful. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He was among the top creators in that whole ex-Michigas there. He's fantastic.
He's great, but this just, I mean, I felt like it was a bait and switch. I'm like, you pulled me in, and thank God I didn't get it in single issues, because if I did, oh my Lord, man.
I did.
Well, you bought it, but you didn't read it, thankfully.
I did.
Read the first issue.
I was chased out of the X universe.
Okay, well, like, again, the first issue was just absolutely fantastic, but I feel swindled, cheated. And I kept texting you too. I'm like, hopefully I get to the end and it ends well and everything turns around, but I couldn't even get there, man.
Yeah, because you said, I'm so disappointed. I'm like, oh, how did it wind up? You're like, I never finished it.
Dude, it seriously, like, I will eventually, but a lot of times when I read, I work all day. I'm a hard-working individual. I get home, I like to relax. I read, but my eyes get tired. You know what I mean? And when I'm not into something, they keep fluttering in different directions, and the book gets put down.
Oh, and you start skipping panels and stuff. It's like,
man, that's this territory. Yeah, not great. But anyway, I bring all this up because it's leading us into a topic that I like to talk about, and it's basically, if I don't golf, but if you golf, you've heard of the term mulligan. You get a redo, a chance to try again. So I want to talk about stories that maybe had a fantastic premise, looked really appetizing out of the gate, but didn't quite cut the mustard, that you or I think could totally use a redo, a new fresh take, or maybe a few tweaks to make it a little bit better. Are there any stories like that out there that possibly exist, or something that you'd like to see?
Yes.
Okay, what do you have, my friend?
Yes. It might be... it might not be a conventional suggestion, but and we have to take it in a vacuum.
All right.
We got to take a lot of the outside things out of it, but the premise of Heroes in Crisis sounded okay.
Really?
Heroes. I mean, you got to figure. I mean, it's not a story that needs to be told, But the idea that superheroes and the whole superhero set have seen and done and witnessed and have been part of things that might leave them with a little bit of trauma makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Just as a student of human emotion and whatever psychology, it makes sense. Even when we talk about Superman has the blessing and curse of being able to hear everything he wants. Right. So he knows that he's not everywhere he needs to be all the time. That's got to be hard. It's got to be hard to sleep at night when you know that you could be doing more. Because you could always be doing more. He could be out 24 hours a day saving people every 2 seconds. Right. And there's always more he could be doing.
Very true.
So that's going to be something that's going to leave a mark on his soul. And it's going to be something that needs to be dealt with in one way or another. Now, Heroes in Crisis was garbage, but at the core of it, it had an interesting idea. Unfortunately, the person who wrote it might have taken like a week of Psych 101 and thought he knew
Yeah.
everything. Um, at least that's how it came across because it's very surface level, but not surface level in a way that's inviting for people to come in and like experience it,
Mm-hmm.
but like a sit around the learning tree. I'm going to learn you something very very
Right.
basic. Trauma's bad,
Yeah.
right? Um, Missed opportunity, and the damn thing felt like it was never going to end. Um, and the ending was garbage too. I mean, the whole thing was a mess. It was a disaster. I think as soon as it happened, DC's like, how do we bury this? Uh, it's like, well, Wally West is screwed. Well, throw him in something else. Get him out of here. Put him over there. Put him over
Right.
there. Have him sit in the damn the Mobius chair. Throw him in there, because this is garbage. But I like the idea. I think the idea in the right hands could be done really well. It has to be something that can't overstay its welcome because it's a story that can theoretically go on forever. Like we talked about with Superman, it's like there's always going to be something he didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So that story just never ends. But if you touch upon it or if you brush up against it, I think it could be
Right.
decent. And if you do it with someone who's going to write it in a way that isn't pandering and talking down to you and only trying to help themselves, um, I think it could be good.
I think everybody crapped on that book, which
Yeah,
is
it was
weird.
it was bad.
Yeah, I know, but
It was
in
bad.
this day and age of just
Oh, I'm sure every issue has at least 5 10 out of 10
you
ratings.
know,
I'm sure
yeah,
of
but
it.
I mean, overall, everybody just like that was let's erase that from our collective consciousness,
It was. I mean, there have been bad stories with the word crisis in it,
right?
but this one takes the
Yeah,
cake.
and a lot of 9 panel pages.
Well, that's the hey, Alan Moore did this and it worked.
The MO of the writer that we're discussing, which I am no fan of
Hmm.
whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't read it. I just knew it wasn't going to be for me, based on yet again the creative team. No disrespect to the artist. Was it Sam Pierre or was it somebody else?
I
I
don't
can't remember
remember.
now off the top of my head either. I can
Yeah,
Google.
it wasn't Gerard's, was it?
No, I don't think so. I
No.
am going to
Okay.
Google. I was going to say I can Google to see if a
Go
smoke
for it.
shop
Go for it.
closed 20 years ago, but
Yes. And the thing with Heroes in Crisis is that it was pitched, it was
mm-hmm,
solicited, and then it fell off the solicits for a bit. And then it came back like 2 or 3 months later. And I had ordered it because I'm a crisis completionist and an idiot,
right?
and I had it pre-ordered. And DCBS, instead of holding on to my pre-order when it was resolicited, they canceled it. So I would had to have bought it a second time, and I thought I already had it. So I get my confirmation, and it's not on it. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
crap, crap. I'm gonna have to actually go out and find this thing. And everybody's talking about how this is gonna be the big book. I'm like, crap. I'm gonna get either stuck with a variant
Mm-hmm.
cover, or I'm just not gonna find it because people are going nuts about this thing. So the morning of, I get up at like 10 to I get out at about 10 o'clock when stores are opening to make sure I'm there before they sell out. And the shop had like 300 copies of this damn thing. Like you know how like you have the new comic wall, right, where everything's leaning up against the wall, and it kind of looks like this.
Uh huh.
It's like the pile is it's like this. Heroes in Crisis was like that. Like it was so full, it was actually sticking out of the off the shelf, and it's like, oh, okay, I could have come in 6 years and gotten a
Yeah.
copy
It was heaping.
for 50 cents.
Hey,
Yeah.
not to interrupt this conversation, but I do need to put this out there right now. It's
Hmm.
something that you're aware of, but
Hmm.
the audience that I'm awaiting a package. I
Hmm.
need to
Hmm.
receive
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Is currently 5 stops away. So when my
Uh-oh.
doorbell rings and my dog starts barking, I will have to
That's a book.
excuse myself from the show for a few moments, not long.
Hmm.
You're going to have to pick up the slack, but just so you know, this is something I have to do. So, okay.
Hmm.
So when everybody
Hmm.
goes, where
Hmm.
did Dave go? Why is it a blank screen? What's happening here?
He went that way.
Yeah, there you go. I had to get a package. You know what I mean? Dad
Hmm.
stuff. That's all I can
Hmm.
say.
5 stops
It says
away
5, so that could be 5 minutes or an hour. You know what I mean?
or more.
Oh, 4
Yeah.
stops away, But it's one of those
Oh,
packages where
that
I
was
have a
quick.
passcode because it's of significant value. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And I only knew about that because I had to Google the fact that Clay Mann was the main artist on
Okay.
Heroes in Crisis. It did say Gerard's was on there, Travis Moore, but I don't know if it's because they contributed covers or whatever.
Well, I think it was supposed to be 6 issues, and then they bumped it up to like
Oh.
9. And the issues that they bumped it up to were very clearly just stuck in
Mm-hmm.
there. So it was a different artist, like kind of circular stories. Like it would start with like the last panel of the issue before it, and then would end with the same panel. So like nothing actually
Mm-hmm.
happened. It was just a way to swindle another $5 out of us for each
Oh my
issue, I guess.
gosh.
The comics way, short-sighted
Yeah,
cannibalism.
well,
It's great
but if
stuff.
it could be done over again, it could be done properly and could be worth
If it could be done shorter,
the
and yeah,
Crisis name. So yeah,
yeah, maybe in 20 years, like they did with like the real Clone Saga. Maybe they'll do the real Heroes in
who
Crisis.
knows? Oh my God, man! You know,
We'll get Howard Mackie in here to
dude,
do
like
it.
it's amazing because you mentioned like the Crisis name, just how overused it is.
Oh, it's pretty
I
ridiculous.
mean, for crying out loud, everything is a crisis. Crisis of the
Hmm.
multiverse. DC Dark Knight's crisis of this, and it's like we get it. All right, it was a hit. We've talked
Hmm.
about Crisis on Infinite Earths and its significance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to keep like I don't know, and it has nothing to do with the original. It's just that name, that
No, no.
word
The name is just so purely
has so
DC.
much weight to it. Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Hmm.
unbelievable that you can't. There was
Oh yeah.
a title one time, and I thought it was probably the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. But it's called Justice League No Justice,
Oh, that was awful.
and I'm like, okay, we get it. Justice. It's all about justice. You had to say justice twice. You know, it was like Tommy two times in
We
Goodfellas.
also had Justice League Cry for
Oh, okay.
Justice.
Well,
Do you
no,
remember
I
that one?
don't.
Where like they literally cried like every issue.
Really? It was what? I thought it'd
Oh
be like
my
a
God,
battle
dude! It
cry,
was
like
no,
cry for
no.
justice.
It's like they were literally like crying for justice. It was the worst. It was James Robinson
Oh.
who I love James Robinson's Starman. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of like the top books. But everything else he's done, it's like, huh? This ain't it. But Cry for Justice was rough. And it was with like that pre-Flashpoint Justice League with like the Mikael Tomas, Starman, and
Oh.
Congarilla. A very, very odd team, but an amazing painted art throughout. But it was just such a bad story.
Starman has a lot of reverence and love in the community. I've never read it, but Robinson himself, the other material I've read from him, most
Hmm.
notably, I think it's been Superman stuff. I think he also
Hmm.
did he do some Red Hood and the Outlaws, maybe?
I don't know. I
Um,
know he did some of the like the new Krypton
yes,
stuff.
yes, right. The World Without Superman,
Yeah.
all, and that was okay, but
Hmm.
it still wasn't like, whoa, man. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he did a run on Justice League, a run on that had like a crossover with Justice Society during Brightest Day, and that was bad. I came to the conclusion that I like him on
uh
Starman,
huh.
and that's about it.
Well, you can chalk it up to like I don't know. I was gonna say Garth Ennis. Like you had that one big hit, everything was great, but
Yeah.
I mean this is a terrible similarity to make because since I don't know Robinson very well, but the first thing
Sure.
that comes to my mind or first creator is always Garth Ennis because he did something fantastic, and then after that he kind of copied what he did that was fantastic.
Yeah. It's like how many times can you say you hate superheroes,
Yeah, the
dude?
shock and awe is
We
kind of
get it.
gone,
We
and
get it.
he's not
Yeah.
bad. Some of his stuff is good. I mean,
No,
I
certainly
had
not.
recently picked up that first issue of Get Fury from Marvel, and it was okay. It wasn't bad.
That's right.
You know, it's
Hmm.
just I don't know, man. It's after a while you're like, yeah, like the Punisher he did at the time. It was considered this seminal run, this important run of Punisher,
Because it was the same issue for
and
five
it was
years straight.
basically Preacher as Punisher. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, or Punisher as Preacher rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's the one trick pony thing. Now, I'm wondering if I should move. I'm 3 stops away. If I should talk
Oh,
about my
Lordy.
Mulligan book, because I do get a little overly verbose sometimes when it comes to talking about these
Well, you
things.
can start us on the topic, and if it's something that I could pick up
Okay,
on,
well,
I'll do my
I am
best.
not the world's biggest Captain America fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm always intrigued, and this kind of leads back even to the Swamp Thing 56, where a traditional hero taken out of his traditional environment. Yeah,
Element.
element. There we go. And when I first heard, Captain America was, of course, being launched again in a new volume. I believe this was volume 7. And in this one,
What are they up to now? Like
good
45?
lord, don't even ask. I couldn't even begin to tell you. But this one is Castaway in Dimension Z. Want to make sure I had the title right there. John Romita Jr. on art, and Rick Remender as the writer. Hopefully, I said his name correctly because I'm terrible at pronouncing creative names. But the idea that Cap gets stuck in this dimension is Arnim Zola's warped, perverted dimension with no escape in sight, no way to or no way out, and he's also in charge of Zola's son. And it takes place over the span of years, where he's even raising the child in this chaotic. I don't like to use the word like apocalyptic, but I mean there's no law there. It's all in the dystopian. There we go. That's appropriate to realm. And the interesting thing about this, and yet again because we have discussed this, me and you, in private, is the era that it came out in. Primarily, and this is to your credit and something that you had mentioned, everything right with this like Marvel Now initiative was all writing for the trade. You know what I mean?
Big time.
So this actually single issues. It lasted is quite a long story. It lasted 10 issues. But my God, did it become boring? Did it become just? I was going to say bloated, but I mean just like full of crap you didn't need. To the point where
Sure.
I'm like, they had this great premise, they had this great idea, something that could be really cool, but you could have just simmered it down to a few issues, and it would have been just as suitable, just as exciting, you know.
Would have been better.
Thank you. Would have been better. But unfortunately, we got stuck with 10 issues of Castaway and Dimension Z, and I own both trades, because trades, of course, were so damn flimsy and skinny. But man, I would really like to see this redone. I want this to get a mulligan. You know what I mean? Because I think potentially it could be great, like real great.
Yeah, doesn't sound bad at all from the premise.
And
sure.
you know that's the other thing.
Just way over long.
Way over long. And the other thing that we mentioned too is, you know, this era now, you're always going to have, to use your word, dystopian stories. They sell well, right? Old Man Logan, Old Man Quill.
Old Man Hawkeye.
Yeah, Maestro, and I love Maestro. Maestro's a great Hulk character, but still, they keep going back and back and back to say this is the last story, the end of times for these characters. This isn't necessarily like this, but it does pose an alternate future for Cap in a way.
Or a potential
future. He does, spoiler alert, he does end up escaping, and it's like, even though he was there for whatever, how many years, 20 years, it was only like a day.
Yeah.
In the regular 616, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, and plus John Romita Jr., you know, dude, mad props to him. I know there are many times he's lost his way, and there's a lot of stuff to make fun of for his artistic stylings.
Sure, he's definitely got a style. It's a very very recognizable.
Instantly,
I mean, it's a Romita
instantly,
Jr.
And you know, we could look at his Superman stuff when he defected to DC and go, oh boy. What?
No, the Ulysses stuff.
Oh, Johnny, what have you done? Like, what is going on here, man? This ain't particularly good. Like, I know we got deadlines, but, you know, you don't want to pull an image. You don't want to be waiting forever here for the issues. But what is going on? But this was actually pretty solid work. So, yeah, if I could, I'd like to see a mulligan on Castaway in Dimension Z. And
wasn't Cap taken? Wasn't he like the secret star of 1602?
Secret Star?
That Gaiman thing?
What?
Like they had this character who, like with long blonde hair who was like just like walking around with whoever. I barely remember the story, but I think it was revealed toward the end that it was actually like the real Captain America who was just sent to this other place where he lived out all this time. And I mean, 1602 was not good.
It wasn't great, but that was 1602 was like, hey man, Neil Gaiman's doing superhero stuff. All right, gotta go for it. But yeah, not great. See, I'm looking at these pages right now. Some of them are real decent. I'm saying, man.
Sure. I mean, Ramita, even on his worst day, he's still comfort food
Oh
for me,
yeah.
so I'm always gonna dig it.
No,
Yeah,
right on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's always like that. Yeah, right.
yeah,
That warm blanket
yeah,
from childhood you can always rely on. Like
yeah. Ramita, the Cubit brothers. I mean, it's that's like the art that I grew up with.
yeah.
So it's always gonna Dan Jurgens. I mean, it's always gonna be
I don't
that.
know if I'm showing any of this stuff properly, but
It's mostly a glare.
oh
It
well. Sorry, I glared you.
looks like he's dealing with the Wildebeest Society from Teen
Yeah.
Titans.
Okay. It's funny we talk about the whole like, oh, his style is just like, yeah, a cookie, having a cookie and a glass of milk, right? You know what
Sure.
it is when you see it, it brings you back, it makes you happy, whatever. This
Hmm.
is a callback to the whole McFarlane thing because he's releasing Marvel figures for the first time, and they're like these little mini statues.
Okay.
And the thing about that is they're based on iconic covers. So there's a couple Spider-Man ones, there's a Wolverine one, there's the one from Spider-Man.
Nothing before 2000. No, nothing after 2000
I
though.
don't think
We don't have
so.
iconic covers
Okay, all
anymore.
right, well, fair enough. Will you stop interrupting me with your little snide comments? Okay,
Sorry.
jeez Louise, I
Sorry.
was on a roll. I
Sorry.
was going places with this.
Go, 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 go. It's all
No,
good.
it's all right. So
Mini statues, iconic
what I was gonna
poses.
say to you was one is a Deadpool statue from New Mutants number 98, and I thought it was
Hmm.
funny because something that's instantly recognizable to me about like Liefeld's art, or even Jim Lee to some extent here, but they did like the lines on the forehead. You know what
Okay.
I'm talking about? Like it's the extra
Sure.
lines there. So
Oh yeah, that image. The image style was very
yeah,
liney.
but the Deadpool figure itself
Yeah.
has the lines on the crotch.
Oh yeah, the smooth, the butt in the
Yeah,
front.
yeah. So I'm like, man, that's great. He's got a nice little package going on there. His bulge is well
There we
defined
go.
for all the. I would not buy a Deadpool statue or figure. I'm not really into the character. That issue, though, of
Mm,
course, brings everybody back. I mean, I had it. You had it. You probably still have it.
sure.
But yeah, man, like I just thought that was a funny little detail because they're trying to make it as comic cover accurate as humanly
As
possible. But
possible.
that also made me think at the time, like that'd be cool if they had like a John Romita Jr. Spider-Man. That's something I'd probably be interested in buying
Yeah, why not?
because it is happy, good stuff. So yeah.
Hmm.
And just to update everybody, we
Sure.
are one stop away. That's right, one stop away from
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
me having to leave the show and leave you in the more than capable hands of
In
Chris.
the lurch.
No, I'm talking to the audience, not to you. You're chopped
Oh,
liver, but in
okay.
your care
That's true.
is where the audience will
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
until we return. And some of the other segments we got coming up on the show, I don't want to start until I do receive the package, which is not really fair. Because again, one stop away, it could be, I don't know. He's right down the street.
They could be in Timbuktu
Yeah,
right
right
now.
down the street. Um,
Oh, he is right down the
Maybe
street.
he'll
Okay.
hit some traffic. But anyway, let's actually, you know what? Let's start something new.
It actually shows a
Yeah,
map.
yeah.
Wow.
Wait, you never used Amazon before? Come on, man. Am I going to
No,
give you more glare? No, you can't see it, the phone.
it's just
It's
white.
just white.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
the wife uses Amazon. I don't use
Yeah.
Amazon. So.
Actually, we just had Prime Day, and I remember mentioning to you, "Hey, it's
Mm.
Prime Day. I've been up since 3 a.m. looking at."
And I was like,
Yeah,
what's that?
exactly. I'm like, what is this? What's up with this guy? Like for real? You don't know Prime Day? Come on! And I didn't buy a bunch. I bought like filters for my water pitcher and uniform shirts for my kid for when he goes back to school. So it wasn't like I was buying all this grandiose like TVs and electronics and everything. But
The wife bought the new a new irrigation system, and we had to send back because it was not the right one.
oh, so she did. She
About
bought
it.
an irrigation system on Amazon.
Yeah, but we have to send it back because it wasn't
Well,
the
there you
right
go.
one.
Easy returns. You just go to Kohl's,
Easy returns.
drop it off, and you get a
Hmm.
coupon,
Get a $5 or a 5% coupon, whatever the hell it is now,
15%.
for a store I never
Yeah,
shop
but
at.
you're gonna
Yeah.
buy something because you get the coupon. You know what I
Maybe.
mean? Um,
Or it'll just wind up in the car with the other 500 of them.
you got to use them right then and there. You can't save them because then you will definitely never
Yeah,
use them.
because you're never bringing them
Yeah.
back.
Oh,
You're never
yeah.
bringing.
It's like and I'm sorry to kind of leave the conversation of comics here, but
No, it's all good.
Old Navy. You go to Old Navy and you get
Hmm.
that cash or whatever.
Oh, the style cash or
Yeah,
whatever.
and they're like, "Oh, next time you shop
Yeah.
here, you got $50 cash or something." You're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that sounds great," and then you never use it. You end
Never
up
use
throwing
it.
it
Yeah,
away.
that happens at Yeah, Banana Republic does the same thing, and it's like, yeah, I'll never be back for
Mm-hmm.
that. So, or I'll come back and it'll be like sitting in my closet, you know. It's like, oh,
Right.
put it in my back pocket, and it just like fell out of the pants.
Oop, he's almost here. Everybody, this is enthralling live stream stuff.
It
This is
is, it
something
is. It's
else.
like we're waiting for like a
Oop,
rocket to launch
he's
here.
right outside. So you know what? I'm gonna go on hold right now. Leave you alone,
Okie dokie.
and please handle the show until I return, and just inform me what you talked about when I do come back.
Okie doke. I'm gonna probably pop into some ephemera
Do that.
right
Do
now.
your ephemera, and I will cover my camera and return
Oh my
sooner
goodness.
or later.
Is is that boobies?
Ah, you wish. This isn't Cinemax.
Oh boy, I'm looking at blurs here. Okay. How about we look at some ephemera here? I wasn't sure if I was gonna do any ephemera here today, but I was in my closet and I found a couple of books on top of a stack, and they are pretty interesting, at least to me. They are comics book. I'm not sure if people are aware of what this is and what this means. This was back from the, I want to say, mid late 70s, and it was Marvel Comics' attempt at putting out underground comics. You can see the Curtis logo here, which I think was a distributor of Marvel. They might have been the ones that owned all the parking lots and stuff, but it might have been before that. I'm not sure. But anyway, this was Marvel's attempt at aping the underground gestalt and vibe. You can see here, I mentioned underground here in the little panel. Reggie had told me about this early on in our partnership where we were going to do our History of Underground Comics series, which I want to say went about 5 parts for Weird Comics History. And around that time, a collection, the best of comics book came out, a trade paperback. I think it's like 200 pages, and it's a like it says, it's a best of because comics book wasn't just one issue. I have the second one here. I think it went, I want to say 4 or 5 before it kind of went away. But Reggie had asked me if I had ever heard of it, and I had no idea. I probably lied and said that I knew of it, but I had never heard of it before. This is Stan Lee and Dennis Kitchen from Kitchen Sink Press, putting their heads together and coming up with something kind of odd, kind of special. And I didn't order the best of collection. I actually was hunting for the best of a couple of weeks ago at the record store because I found on their website that they had a copy of it for like, I think it was like $12, and I think it had like a $30 tag on it. So I figured I'd give it a shot. Couldn't find it. Um, but then again, it doesn't really look too much like a superhero comic book, so I don't know where the record store might have put it. Might have gone with the regular trades and graphic novels, or it might have gone, I don't know, with art books. I don't know, maybe with music lyric books. Who the hell knows? So I couldn't find it. But I did have these first 2 issues that I found in a magazine bin at a comic shop. And I remember seeing them and I was like blown away because they'd been built up to like this mythical. A lot of the things that Reggie introduced me to, I built up to this like mythical kind of presence and seminal moments in comics history. So to see like the actual original issue in that bin was just, it was gobsmacking. And it was like, I think they were each $10, which is more than I want to pay for something, of course, but I'd never seen them in real life before. And I've never seen them since. I've only ever seen them that one time. And so they were very, very special. And I found them after Reggie had passed away, so I wasn't even able to discuss it with him. We discussed it briefly in that Weird Comics History series where it was kind of like a blurb, you know, it's like, oh, Marvel and, you know, Dennis Kitchen did this thing, and that was about it. But in getting it home and going through it, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. The most interesting thing to me, and I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one, and I know this is not, I should have done this before we got on the air, but this is an early appearance. I think it might be the second issue, but it is an early, I'm going to open up the second one. Hey, Dave's back.
Hello, I am here.
Or almost back. Yeah, I'm going through my ephemera right now,
Yes,
which is comics book. I don't know if you're familiar with comics book.
I am not. And I could mildly hear you because I have my wireless earbuds in, so I'm talking to the
Okay.
Amazon guy and I can hear you at the same time.
Ah, Gotcha. Yeah, it's this here. It's
Oh.
this was Marvel's attempt at underground
Ah,
comics.
yes, 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 yes. I think I've heard of that. I
Yeah,
realized though I did make a tactical error. I put this in front of my camera when I really could have just went to you full screen. So
that's fine. Nobody needs to
why
see
did I
me.
do that?
Nobody
It's
needs to
so
see me
weird.
full
I don't
screen.
know. But anyway, as you were with the comics book,
Yeah.
and keep talking about your ephemera.
Yes. It's actually the second issue where this surprised the hell out of me. I'm trying to find what is the cover date of this here. I'm trying to look for that Indicia. I don't know if there is one here. Boy. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. 1974. So this is really old. This goes back, 650 some odd years here. And oh, you can see here the roll call here. You can see Stan Lee's name, Dennis Kitchen's name, and all the names of the creators, including Art Spiegelman. And so this is 1973, 1974, and Mouse. I had no idea that Mouse
Wow, look at that.
was that old. Yeah, I don't know if this is the first time Mouse was ever published, but it shocked me that it was from something from the mid 70s. When I think of Mouse, I think about mid 80s.
Right?
Um, that is to say, I don't know when it came out. It might have come out in the mid 70s for all I
Hmm.
know. I just always associate it with the mid 80s. I figure it probably would have happened after Spiegelman did Raw and whatnot. But I was shocked to see it in this magazine and thought it was super cool. And it's one of those things, I mean, as a fake ass comics historian, when I learn something new, I'm like immediately embarrassed that I didn't already know it. So it's like I see this and I'm like, how come I didn't know this? I would absolutely no reason to know it. Because I think even like the Wikipedia page for Mouse doesn't say anything about comics book. But there's no way I should have known it, but I was annoyed that I didn't. It's one of those things as a fake ass as
No,
I
I
am.
understand. That makes sense. It's, a lot of times that applies to me too. I'm like, wait, I should know that. And there's even times where I'm like, I knew
Yeah.
that and I forgot about it.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like going through a bin and finding like the two issue Mindy Newell, Gray Morrow, Lois Lane miniseries from the early mid
Mm-hmm.
'80s. Seeing that, I'm like, how come I didn't know this existed?
Yeah.
It's the when it's crying when it's raining, God is crying. I think is the story. It's about missing children, and like seeing it in a bin. It's like, how didn't I know that this
Right.
existed? It's weird when you can surprise yourself like that, and Comics Book did that for sure. It was very interesting.
Very cool. Very cool indeed.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go forth now with the forgetting things. There'd be times someone says to me, "Oh,
Hmm.
what's that character's name again?" I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I knew this stuff inside and out.
Sure.
I read Marvel Saga. I read the
Oh yeah.
Marvel encyclopedias. I know this character. I know everything
Yeah.
about the.
Chapter and verse.
And
Yeah.
here I am in my 40s, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I forgot. My God, what is wrong with me? You know what I mean? But with
Oh
a
yeah.
brain full of useless information, even that sometimes has to clean itself out and go,
It has to be refreshed.
you
Yeah.
didn't need that, really, did you?
No.
You know?
Yeah. I used to be able to quote X-Men stuff chapter and
Mm-hmm.
verse, and now it's like,
Yeah.
huh?
Well,
Yeah. When did Rogue join? I don't know.
yeah, getting old's a bitch. You know what I mean?
In it. I guess it beats the
It's
alternative,
true,
but what are you
very
gonna do?
true. What else you find?
Because then I'd be stuck haunting
I
you in the
know.
shower or
And I
something.
was trying to avoid
Yeah.
saying that, but yet again, here you are. This is what you do. This is how you
That's what I
operate.
does.
So, what else did you find? You had comics
Mhm.
book. What else you got going on over there?
Let's see. Well, I do have one little piece of ephemera
Mm,
here. Since you mentioned a
yes.
Deadpool figure, I don't have a Deadpool
Okay.
figure, but I do have a Deadpool hero click that I got. Where am I going? There it
Ah,
is.
there you are.
That I
Yes.
only got because he's holding Jeff the Land Shark.
Ah.
Yeah, you can see Jeffrey the Land Shark. That's the only reason I own that.
Okay.
That was
And
pretty
that's now
cool.
your second hero clicks.
Yes, because the first one is the man
Yes,
himself here.
indeed.
Oh,
Wrong way.
Vartox.
There we
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
Vartox. Yes, baby.
Yes. Vartox, the Superman that
Very
failed.
nice. So
Yes.
where did you find this little Deadpool figure, if you don't mind me asking?
Had to order it.
Oh, really? That's
I had to
Jeff the
order it.
Land Shark
Unlike
has
me.
got his hooks
Yeah.
in you, my friend. Holy
Yeah, and
moly.
I have the Jeff the Land Shark action
Mm-hmm.
figure that came with like some like demonic looking woman. And I only bought the thing for the Jeff figure. I found that at a used bookstore for like $5. So like the figure in the box is like somewhere in the garage, but the Jeff is, well, I haven't put him out yet, but he's here somewhere.
Where is the limit to your love for Jeff the Land Shark?
I'm not sure there is one just yet. I really enjoy Jeff
Would
the
you
Land
wear a
Shark.
T-shirt of Jeff the Land Shark?
I don't know. I don't really wear.
Exactly. That's why I'm
I don't
asking.
really wear. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know.
So we might have found the
If I
limit.
wore ball caps, I might have a Jeff the Land Shark one, but I don't wear
Okay.
hats.
Would you go on
Yeah.
McFarlane.com and pre-order at much expense to you on an already
Mhm.
maxed out credit card a Jeff the
Mhm.
Land Shark 2-pack figure?
If he comes with a horse, yeah.
Okay, that's the selling point. Yeah.
If it's the new 52 version,
Well, that was the new 52 Jonah Hex was pretty decent and interesting.
well, I mean, it's how much different looks
Well, no,
wise. I
he's
mean, not
not.
much,
It's
right?
just the artistic
Yeah.
stylings of who is in, see, here I go again. The artist. He's got one of those one word names.
Kano,
No, it's not Kano. This is after Kano. Hold on.
Cafu.
No, stop putting. That's stop. Hold on.
Cafu's a
I
real
know
guy.
he
He did
is,
the Thunder
but
Agents.
you're
Yeah.
gonna start just throwing one word names out at me. You're gonna confuse me. Hold on. And I know this too. Why am I doing this? What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
I probably reached for the trades over there. Anyway, it's after this artist's style.
Justiano.
Oh.
Trying to think of all the Zermanenko.
No, it starts with an M, I
Zermanenko.
believe it is. Damn it!
Trying to think of every artist I can think of with a
I
single
am really
name.
producing some top-notch
Well,
live stream.
it ain't Mobius. It ain't
No,
Mobius.
bear with me. Bear with me.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyway, what I was gonna say before I got into that was New 52 was interesting as well because right now you don't have a Jonah Hex book, yet you
Sure.
had two during the New 52. You had
There were
they
two.
had All Star Western, a revival of that title,
Okay.
and they had the Jonah Hex regular title.
I thought there was a Jonah Hex one before Flashpoint.
Was there?
I thought that was
Moritat.
pre
Moritat is the name. I knew it started
Flashpoint.
with an M.
I would have never
See,
ever
you're
gotten
throwing
that.
these things out, man, at me, and I'm like, shut up,
Kafu,
shut up with Cafu.
Zermanenko.
No, it's Moritat. But anyway, it's in his stylings, the figure.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, no, because the last Hex book was the, yet again, dystopian future Hex. Not Jonah, but just Hex, where he's in the future fighting
Hmm.
robotic dogs and stuff. And that
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
late 80s? 80s.
That was right after Crisis,
Okay, so there you go. Biggity bam, biggity boom.
because he was sent there. He was sent there in Crisis, I think, right?
Was he?
Like, wasn't he like buzzed out of Crisis and like he wound up in the future or
Was
something
it
like
the
that?
red sky and then he get transformed there? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go
Could
back
be.
and look. But anyway.
Yeah, could be.
But anyway, yeah, Jeff the
I
Land
bought all
Shark.
those issues for 10 cents each.
All the what?
All the Hex books for 10
Well,
cents
they're not the
each.
best stories of all time, so
No, and Giffen was not at his best at that point
no,
either.
it wasn't. Well, he took it over at the end. I know Teixeira
Yeah.
started that book
Hmm.
with Fleischer.
That was Michael Fleischer?
Yeah. Fleischer
Yeah.
was, he didn't create Hex, but he's the definitive writer of Hex.
He
Yeah,
defined him.
he wrote him the
Yeah.
longest and strongest. But yeah, so
Hmm.
maybe, maybe we'll see Jeff the Land Shark take his
You
turn
never know.
as being transformed or transported into the future. It's funny because you were like, hey, yeah,
Old man
yeah,
Jeff.
if he was on a horse, I'd totally buy it. And I'm like, there must be an issue where he is on a horse. I mean, the sky's the limit with this guy,
It's
So,
true. There's an issue where he eats pizza the whole time. It's
oh,
pretty good.
really? For real? Is that like
Hmm. And he gets venomized too, which is
who
pretty
doesn't?
funny.
Who doesn't?
True. I think I've been venomized
Right,
3 times.
exactly.
And I had all my booster shots.
Now,
for it.
does he? Okay, I think if memory serves, he did get like a one-shot issue, but
He had a couple.
his title is purely an online thing.
Well, it was. It was part of the Marvel Unlimited deal, and then they printed
Oh,
them. as It's Jeff, and then like It's Jeff. I'm sure there's an It's Jeff averse out there. I mean, because everything
Your
has to have an
favorite,
averse.
yeah, right.
Oh
Hmm.
God. But yeah, I think there's like two or three one shots that and they're oversized, real
Right.
thick books. I got them somewhere, but
Okay.
what are you
All
gonna
right. Well, I got a box in the mail. This wasn't the Amazon guy. This is
do?
I get
Mm-hmm.
my comics shipped to me every 2 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're willing and able. I know we did this last time. People seem to like it. They all show off what I buy because I have disposable income. I can buy new comics. Actually, do I have disposable income? I just mentioned maxing out credit cards. I have money I spend on comics. That's what it is. Okay, folks?
You have a budget.
No, not, not really. I just buy stuff because I like buying stuff. Someone stop me, please. It's criminal. Oh my God. But I don't know if you guys want to take a quick look at the stack I have here of
Mm-hmm.
the slippery of the books I got.
Slippery
Maybe you can
stack.
comment on these and go, geez, that looks terrible.
I'll do thumbs up,
Or
thumbs
okay,
down.
well,
No, no.
the first book I'm going to show off is interesting because, man, did they understand the assignment with this so much. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the revamped Savage Sword of Conan. And man, this cover is pretty awesome. And when I say they nailed the assignment was, okay, Marvel, when they had the rights to Conan, they came out with a Savage Sword book. Okay, I should
Mm-hmm.
establish this. They had Conan back in the 70s and 80s.
Back in
Yeah,
the
and
day,
they
yeah.
launched Savage Sword of Conan in this large tabloid black and white book. But when they got him
Gotcha.
back, it was a regular sized full color
Regular comic.
comic. And it was like, all right, man,
Yeah.
you guys are kind of missing the essence of what made Savage Sword so great to begin with. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a magazine that I'd even regularly pick up at the smoke shop. It was awesome, you know what I mean? This being back, the stories, this is third issue, haven't been like, wow, oh my God, my mind's blown. This is the best Conan stories ever told. But dude, just to be able
Mm-hmm.
to open it up and have it be in that same format is like everything, man. I'm like, that was brilliant. That was
Sure.
so smart. Like, come on.
It's so simple too.
Simple, easy, just the right thing to do.
What do they charge for a book like that?
Let's see, because I pay with my discount. It's like $6.99 is the regular street
Okay.
value.
For an oversized
Well,
tabloid,
and
that's not
there's
terrible. I mean, we're paying more for less
yeah,
now
and there's a
anyway.
backup story in here. It's Solomon Kane by Patrick Zurcher, which really isn't my
Oh,
jam.
he's writing that?
Yeah, he writes it and draws it.
Okay, I know he's an
Yeah.
artist.
So,
Yeah,
hey,
but I don't know that I ever read anything of his that he written.
do you like his art? Did you like, for example, his
I
Superman
appreciate his
stuff?
art, sure. Yeah, as he did. Oh boy, where did I see him? I don't remember, but I know I like his
Okay.
art.
I get Superman on the brain anyway because I got the hat on, I got the sticker
Hmm.
behind me, and I have a copy of
There you
Superman
go.
in my hands. Now, full disclosure, I didn't just receive this a few minutes ago, so I've read a couple of these, and this one was on top of
Mm-hmm.
my read pile. Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell. Campbell is back. I know you really like his artwork. His art is so good, and much like what we were talking about with J. Scott Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
not being on time to avoid
Oh
delays.
yeah, need
You get a lot
fillings.
of fill-in
Yeah,
artists, and man, you can tell. Like this guy is special. You know what I mean?
sure.
So to have him back on this issue, it is an absolute power tie-in. As you can read by the top there.
At least the Brainiac story's over.
This is true. That is over. Well,
I'm sure it's still floating
it's
in
part of
there, but
absolute power because you still have the Brainiac
yeah,
Queen being a
it's like when you flush and it just doesn't all go
yeah, I
down.
guess. Well, hey,
Yeah.
it wasn't all right. I mean, I'm kind of stopping myself because the Brainiac story necessarily wasn't bad. There's just some
Mm.
aspects of it I could totally do without, and I know your stance on it is it's been told a billion times.
I already read
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was pretty decent. And Williamson as a writer, we're going to talk about him a little bit more later in the program.
Hmm.
I'm 50-50 on him, but I think Superman
Me
is
too.
in his wheelhouse, and I think he does a very decent job with the book.
Yeah, I was actually just reading some of his
Oh,
Flash, trying to catch up with Flash, and then I got a quick reminder as to why I stopped reading
how's that?
Flash. Because every single arc has to do with an evil speedster showing up.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
tedious.
oh, didn't we just read that? It's like I could have sworn I just read
Yeah.
this. And it's like, no, here's Godspeed. Oh, we don't need another damn
Mm-hmm.
speedster. Can we do something
Sure.
else? I mean, I think Flash is not an easy character to write
Mm-hmm.
because it's either going to be here's the rogues for the 5,000th time or here's an evil speedster for the 100,000th time, and it takes a special sort. I think that's why I like the Wally West stuff so much because it was a little bit different
Sure.
than the formula.
That makes sense. No speedsters apply here for the newest issue of Action Comics. I have not read it. Um, this is supposed to be like, as you can tell, I guess by the chest insignia there, a tale from the past. It's a
We need more of
challenge
those.
from the stars. Gail Simone writing, and then I forget who the artist is. Oh, Eddie Barrows, who
Okay. Oh, I haven't heard from him in a
yeah, not
while.
he's okay. Listen,
He's all right. He was big on like the weekly or the bi-weeklies back like during Brightest Day, I
okay,
think.
all these people are talented, but it's just like cake
Mhm.
tastes good. You might like chocolate cake more, you like vanilla cake. So
Sure. I
when we
mean,
talk about creators,
we're fair. We're not 10 out of 10
yeah,
people.
exactly. But he's okay. It's like
He's good.
the solicits now for the next Action Comics when Mark Waid takes it over is Rafael Sandoval. Am I saying his name right?
Okay.
Again,
Rafa?
Rafa
Yeah.
Sandoval. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Not his biggest fan. He's okay, but
He's okay.
well
Yeah.
again,
He's another one that I put him in like who was that you just had there?
yes.
Barrows and like Aaron Lopresti. I put them like all together in like that Brightest Day
Mm-hmm.
milieu, where they're similar, they're good, but
Just
I
not
don't
your
know that I'd
favorite.
buy a book for them.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which is actually something. Yet again, I'm doing all these teases. We're going to talk about a little bit later in the episode. So
Hmm.
it's coming. It's coming.
We're gonna put a
We're gonna
pin in
put a
that.
pin in that. Barfly, Dark Horse Comics. This ties into the Minor Threats whole, your favorite word, universe. Not multi, but just a universe.
Mm.
A henchman that looks like a fly. Now, Minor Threats, the initial series, I thought was great. I loved the living
Hmm.
dickens out of it. Sequel's been okay.
Who is that?
Excuse me.
Who
That's
wrote that?
Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom, or
Okay.
Blum, Blum. Yeah. Tomato, tomato. But yeah, so I just did get what comes out in that whole the Minor Threats tie-in. I was going to mention the sequel to Minor
Hmm.
Threats, not as great as the original. It's hard to find any
Hmm.
sequel that's as good. Unfortunately, okay, I would just prefer everything to be an ongoing, so you wouldn't have to talk
It'd be
about Minor
nice.
Threats 1, 2, this and that. But here we are, face to
Hmm.
face, couple of silver spoons. Ghost Machine,
Hmm.
we got some Red Coat up in the house, and Red Coat's been decent.
Hmm.
I've mentioned that Rook Exodus is probably the best book in this entire line thus far, and I expected this to be my least favorite. It's not half bad. It's okay. So, Jeff Johns, of course, the writer on this little bad boy here. Gonna keep going with some more Image Rifters about some cops that manage the time stream. Ugh. The first episode. Jeez, what is the matter with my mouth right now?
Well, it's probably because it was written to be a Netflix
Probably,
series.
thank
So
you. But the first
yeah.
issue was very lewd, crude, but enjoyable. So I haven't read this yet. I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to see where this goes. Ain't no grave. Ain't no grave like my grave. Number 3. I believe we talked about this the first issue on one of our previous episodes. So go back,
Okay.
watch the old ones to hear my opinion on that. I got like 16
Hmm.
books here,
I hardly
so I'm
remember.
trying to speed through them here. World's Finest, number 29. This is supposed to be the end of the whole
Hmm.
Batmite thing and the end of Dan Mora's tenure on the book, so it's a little bittersweet.
Well, for the first bit, not a minute too soon.
Dude,
That Batmite thing has been going on for like six
it
months
feels
now.
like it, doesn't it? I forgot how many issues it is, and to be quite honest with you, despite how much I like the artist, I have not read them because I'm just like, ugh, I really didn't want that. I don't want it.
That's another one where it's like we already read this story.
Elseworlds,
How much can you do with it?
All Winter, the Dark Knights of Steel, which is actually an alternate take I really enjoyed via trade form, which is the Tom Taylor yarn. I dug it, so I figured I'd bite on this Dark Knights of Steel All Winter. Haven't read it yet. I'll let you know what I think eventually. Cy Spurrier, the man, the myth, the legend. Hellblazer, Dead in America. This has been a very good series. Flavor of the month, like urban. What's the word I'm looking for? With the monsters. Help me out.
Urban
Legends
legend
and stuff,
or
and he's going to deal with all those as he travels. There we
Boogeyman?
go. The American countryside. This cover is fairly interesting. Very adult. Oh,
Suggest.
you took a good look at that, did
Mm-hmm.
you? Nightwing is coming. Speaking of Tom Taylor, his run is coming to an end shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And now the next issue I'm going to show you is kind of interesting because, I always like to let you guys know how me and Chris talk in private. And I saw a review just by happenstance online from AIPT.com, and they gave this a 6. And I was like, what? Really? A 6? Not saying it's good or bad, but to see a site not
An
give...
honest review.
Yeah, not give a 10 out of 10. It's like, wow, or like a really high rating, But yeah, dude, in for a penny, in for a pound. Absolute power.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
That looks so cheap, doesn't it? Like the logo there looks like something that like Marvel would have put out like in 1995 after they discovered
You
Photoshop.
think so?
It looks so
Yeah,
cheap.
not a fan, huh? Well,
No.
there you go.
No.
A little bit more Elseworlds here, and I've yet to read the first issue, even though I've had it for a while. Just that read pile, man, it catches up on you. I got comics stacked all over this place. People would think I'm like a
Oh yeah.
hoarding weirdo. Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, Numero Dos.
Because we demanded it.
Indeed, we did. Geiger, number 4, More Ghost Machine. And Geiger is a book that, to be honest with you, hasn't really been lighting my fire, per se. But when you talk Gary Frank, I'm in, baby. I'm all the way in. And I ain't stopping. That sounded a little perverse, but I love Gary Frank. So this, even if the story's like ho-hum and okay, it's still a visual tour de force in
There
my
you go.
mind.
Tour de
Yeah,
France.
Okay, Lance. Am I boring you half to death with this stuff yet? Please tell me to stop if you wish me to stop. There's only a couple left anyway.
Hit it and get it.
Sinister Sons number 6. I think this is the end.
Oh, hopefully.
This one I did read, and I was kind of interested in. Namor number 1, and I should be interested in all my comics, but I had a specific love for John Byrne's Namor in the 90s. You remember that whole thing where it's like Marvel's first mutant? And
Oh yeah. For sure.
Jason Aaron is a writer to me that, man, his last Punisher run, I think, one of the best Punisher stories ever told.
It was great.
Yet, I can turn around, read Batman Off-World, and I'm like, this is the biggest pile of garbage I've ever bought. If it wasn't for Doug Mankey doing the art, I'd be like, this is just, I've been robbed. Like, call the cops. Off-World is bad. So I never necessarily know what I'm getting anymore with a Jason Aaron book.
Sure.
Now you could go back to his early Image days. Southern Bastards I thought was fantastic. But Namor is a character that I've always had certain interests in, even though I'm not a hardcore fan. This issue was pretty darn good.
Good,
I was very
good.
pleased with that. So hopefully it's not going to pull an uncanny Spider-Man on me.
Yep. I'm trying to think if there's anything from Aaron that I particularly don't care for. I know, like he did Thor, which I don't care about because it's Thor.
Sure.
It's not necessarily because it's Jason Aaron, but I loved his Wolverine and the X-Men. I thought that was some really, really good stuff.
I didn't read it.
Trying to, yeah, it was good. I can't think of anything of his that I didn't like as a reflection of something he wrote. Thor is Thor, and Thor bores the crap out of me. So.
And
that's just how it is.
Yeah, Thor's a tough one. I there's like a certain era that gives me the warm and fuzzies, but other than that, forget about it. And just real quick, because this is something I was kind of asking you about, like, what's the deal with this? Why would you even waste a bag and a board on it? Why did they give it to me?
Oh yeah.
Zdarsky Comic News, which isn't even a magazine or anything interesting.
It's just a flyer,
It's just a
right?
flyer, and they bagged it and boarded it. And it's even difficult to get out because it's just a single sheet of paper. And all it is advertising books that Chip Zdarsky has worked on. And I don't know if he paid to have these distributed in people's
Mm-hmm.
comic subs or what. Um, but I was like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. Thanks for the free bag and board because they didn't charge me for it.
Yeah. I mean, it is ephemera.
This is true. Maybe I should send it to you. How's that sound?
Mm-hmm.
That's your bag, not necessarily
There we
my
go.
bag. But anyway, guys, those are the new comics I just got. Hopefully, you're all still awake. Especially because I was fumbling and bumbling my words while I was trying. I can't do
Yeah.
two things at the same time. You know what I mean?
Can you chew
No,
gum?
that's what I mean. I'm trying to show you comics. I can't speak. I can't manage all this stuff. This is bad for me. Very bad.
It's a lot of
All
moving
right.
parts. A lot of
We got a couple
parts.
more things to talk about. I'm wondering in which order we should do them because we didn't necessarily discuss it.
I've got some
Oh
finds
yeah.
here. I've got a little
Why didn't you?
stack here.
Why didn't you do that earlier when I was asking about your ephemera and stuff? And
Well, this
well,
isn't
yeah, but
ephemera.
it's still
This
something
is
you bought.
comic books. Yeah, look, I figured we'd do it as
All
one.
right, then
here.
the floor is yours, my friend.
these are
Holy moly, you go for it.
these are just things from the bins here.
What you got?
Nothing really huge or special or anything. I did finish up my '80s Huntress collection. here.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, this is one that I very seldom actually see in the bins, but when I see it, I pick it up because I don't know, I want to have
Right
it.
on.
So I finally do have all. I think it wanted 19 was the last issue, so I have all 19 issues of it, and the Justice League special that came out afterwards that closed, picked up the loose plot threads or whatever. Picked up a couple of issues of Pre-Crisis Detective here. Got a 551 and 552 here. Some old pre-crisis Jason Todd stories there. Pretty good stuff. Really good art. Who was it here? Richette? Oh, Broderick. Pat Broderick. So I really enjoyed that. Now this one is well, not interesting, but interesting enough for me. I mentioned that Gen 13's miniseries took forever to come out. And as I'm going through my spreadsheet to see what I've got, I found that I was missing issues 4 and 5 of the miniseries. And I found 4 a couple weeks ago, and 5 I couldn't find until this past weekend. And the thing of it is it took forever to come out. So you don't know which one is which, because after this happened, the ongoing came out, and shortly after number 1 comes out, number 5 comes out, of course. So you have all these number 5s. So I was making sure I got the right number 5. So I didn't get a duplicate of the ongoings number 5. And found this. I think this might be the most I paid for a book. I think I paid like not $4, so it wasn't the most I paid for a book in this pile, but second most. I picked this up because this was like the only issue of Secret Six I was missing.
Okay.
It's Gail Simone. Might be the last thing of hers I actually enjoyed. Might be the first and last thing of hers I enjoyed was Secret Six before Flashpoint. Thought this was a really fun series. Kind of scratched the Suicide Squad itch for a lot of people, where it's a group of B, C-list villains and Bane. Bane was they were giving him a babyface turn there at the end of the post-crisis U. So that was fun. And I really enjoyed that. I have it in trade, but I never had the first issue in
Was
singles,
that the one that also had like Doll Man and then
yeah,
what was his name? The Power
Yeah.
Geek.
Brother Power.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Catman.
Yeah,
Vandal Savage's daughter.
Right.
Yeah. No, it was a fun, quirky series. It was a shame that it was one of the things that the New 52 flushed down the toilet. Now the last book here was one that I almost bought back in 2011. Out here in Phoenix, we had a store called Atomic Comics. And there were like 4 or 5 locations. And during the summer of 2011, before the New 52 came out, they announced that their back issues were going to go 80% off, which should have been a sign that the store was not long for this world. But I could tell, because it's like, well, that's a fire sale. So I made sure I was there all the time, picking up whatever I could. I think I got like the lion's share of my Peter David Hulk singles during that sale, 80% off. It was like I was paying pennies for them. So it was just awesome. And everything in the bins was 80% off, I should say. Everything on the wall was like 10% off, because the wall books are more expensive. So I was there pretty much 2 or 3 times a week at all the different locations, driving around town like an idiot. And I remember during this time, you know the band Neon Trees? You ever hear of them?
I'm not familiar with them. No.
Okay. They have a song called Animal, and it starts with "Here We Go Again." That's like it's like music, 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 and then "Here We Go Again." And like every time I got in the car to go to Atomic Comics, that song would be playing. So like the first thing I'd hear as I turn the car on is "Here We Go Again," and I'd be going to the damn comic store. So it's one of those things that I'll always kind of equate with it. But I was going through and I was trying to fill in some JLI stuff, and I found this issue that I had never seen before in my life. And I brought it up to the counter. It had a $10 price tag on it, which was expensive for a JLI book. And it was 80% off, so $2. And I handed it to the girl at the counter, and she's like, I don't know if I can sell this one to you. I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, this one shouldn't have been in the bins. This one's a wall book. It shouldn't have been in the bins. I'm like, well, it was in the bins. I said, I'm the
Right.
only person in here. You've seen me digging. I haven't torn anything off the
Right.
wall. There's no blank spot on the wall. So clearly, unless I brought this in with me, it came out of the bins. She calls the owner, who I hear is like yelling, like I'm trying to rip the store
Yeah.
off. And she's like, I can sell it to you, but he wants $100 for it.
Wow.
And I'm like, F that. You can keep it. And the next time I came in, it was on the wall. They had it on the wall with a $100 tag on it instead of the $10 tag it had in the bin. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll never own this damn thing. It's not a big deal. It's a variant cover anyway. But I thought it was cool. And so flash forward to this past weekend, and I'm going through a bin. One of the shops I go to has a like a new to the store bin. So like if you're familiar with everything that's in the back issue bins and you're there regularly, you know not to waste your time going to the bins for new stuff. You just go to this one little lineup of bins for the new to the store
Right. Yeah, it
books.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's perfect. So I go and I find this book, $10 price tag. They have 20% off of everything in the store all the time. So everything except the 50-cent bin is 20% off every day. So it was $8, more than I wanted to pay for a single book, but I figured, what the hell? I've only seen this thing once before in my life, and it's this sucker right here. This is Justice League number 3, the variant cover where they were trying to float a new logo for DC Comics here with the Superman
Mm-hmm.
deal. And more interesting than that, this is one of the rare occasions where Captain Marvel is called Captain Marvel on the cover of a book. Captain Marvel or Shazam, whatever the hell we're calling him now, he could be called Captain Marvel inside the books, just not on the
Right.
cover. So this is an interesting one that they're actually saying Captain Marvel on the cover, and it has this weird little bullet here. So I picked that one up. I thought it was really cool. It's the same issue on the inside. There's no mention of anything different about it. I got home and I sent the picture to you, and I'm like, I wonder why this exists in the first place. And it was just so they could float that Superman Comics logo, which I didn't do much research on. I probably should do more. I probably should have done more before presenting it here, but I don't know. I thought that was cool, and it was kind of vindicating that I was able to get it for, it was same cover price it was same sticker price that I saw in that store 15 years ago.
Right.
So that was pretty neat.
Well, when you had
But
initially messaged me about it, I mean, I wrongly assumed it was like a $3 book because I've seen it a handful of times throughout my
yeah,
life. I've passed on it. It's a cool cover.
yeah. I mean, and then it's just an interesting little
Yeah, it's a cool
piece.
looking book and everything. It's just like, I'm like, I already
Yeah,
own the issue. Do I need this cover? And
sure, me
then
too.
I start looking around online. And it's like, yeah, it was a test for that Superman logo in the corner to replace the
Yeah,
bullet. And it's like, oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, and I looked on eBay after that
Mm-hmm.
just to see what it's going for,
Sure.
and it's anywhere from 50 to $100 on
Yeah, that's
eBay.
crazy, man. I can't believe it.
Which is weird. Yeah,
I really.
yeah. I don't know how short the supply was, how short the print was
Mm-hmm.
on it. Like I said, I should have researched, but
There
I
you
didn't.
go. You should have went on speculators.net and
Mm-hmm. Yep. Backslash
yeah,
HTML.
and to that poor owner who back in the day marked it up to $100. Guy must just hate money, hate earning money. He's just
Right.
like, you know what? No one can have this. Keep it in your own personal stash, there, Mister
Yeah.
Mister Moneybags. Like
That was
$100.
that was That was the last shop that I had a hold box at
Yeah.
too.
Wow.
Because with the new 52, I went over to
Hmm.
DCBS because they had like the big bundles and stuff. But I remember they actually ran their hold box in a very smart way, where like you gave them a credit card, and on Wednesday morning they would charge
Hmm.
it. So you would be charged for the books that were there. You'd have your discount, of course, and then you'd walk in. They'd either know who you are, you show ID or whatever, and they'd hand you your
Sure.
books. You don't even pay because you already
Right.
paid. And it reminds me of like all these sad sack tweets we see now, where it's like someone like frowning next to a stack of comics. These are all the pre-ordered books that nobody
Yeah.
picked up, and people like take a credit card. Well, we can't do that.
Hmm.
Well, why the hell not? They're not coming to buy them
Yeah.
anyway.
Go for it.
It's be smart
I
about
mean,
it.
we both do mail
Be
order.
smart
That's
about it.
that's what it is. I pay for my books a
We're
couple
paying
months
up
ahead
front.
of time, and of course, we get the
Mm-hmm.
discount, which is a beautiful thing.
Of course, of
Because
course.
realistically, I would not be buying the 16 books I just showed you had I not gotten the discount, because cover prices are insane. The fact I had to look at
They are
Savage Sword of
insane.
Conan and tell you it's like a $7 book virtually is like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, like, I mean, it's pricing people out. That's crazy, man.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
35% off mail order. Recommend it. Go for it. Do it. You're gonna pay in
Mm-hmm.
advance, but my God, man, without that discount, I'd be doomed.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
doomed.
and I know it's hard to switch over from going
Hmm.
to the shop weekly to doing like a monthly or biweekly delivery, because I remember like every time I wanted to do it, that's what stopped me. It's like, oh man, these are books that come out in three
Hmm.
months. It's like, and then like then you get to that first week of that month where you ordered ahead,
Right.
and you're not going to the comic shop on Wednesday, and it feels so
Yeah.
weird.
Hmm.
Not that you'll tear through your entire pile that night or anything, but it's like there's books out that I don't have yet. That's just so
Yeah, just
weird.
the environment too.
Such an alien, yeah, it's an alien
Yeah.
feeling.
And then talking about pre-ordering those books, it's like, for example, Dark Horse came out with this book called The Writer. I think I brought up on Bada Bin
Hmm.
before, and
I think you
I didn't
mentioned
care
it,
for issue
yeah,
one at all. But
but you ordered the first
yeah, and
three.
so now I'm like, well, this
Yep.
this last week they charged me, and I had issue four on there. I'm like, I might as well just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ride the wave until it crashes
Because
upon the
everything's
shore.
a mini
Yeah,
anyway.
and it's 35% off. So but as far as I
There
bring
you
this up
go.
because you go to the shop every week, you read a couple issues, you're like, cut it, it's
Yeah,
over. You know what I mean? But with pre-orders, you kind of
sure.
you're in for the ride.
You're locked
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, that's cool. Those are some good finds. I think the
Yeah,
Justice League International was probably the best, but I am particularly
for sure.
fond of that era, even though that was early in the series, so we didn't fully.
That was before it really
Yeah,
hit stride.
exactly. But
Yeah.
still, it's a cool thing to have, and as
Yeah.
you get a little
Yeah.
story to tell behind it too. And where is that
Hmm.
owner now? I don't know. Hopefully, he went the way of Chet's Smoke Shop. That's all I can say about
I,
that.
I actually I actually saw him at Old Man Con.
Really? Did you?
I did. I bought some books from him too.
What? Really? You should have went up to him and been like, "Hey,
Hmm.
you remember me, Mister $100 JLI number 3?"
Yeah, where's that Captain Marvel
Yeah,
book now?
exactly. Yeah, right.
Sold it on eBay for
Yeah, my
$12.
kids had to eat it because we went broke.
There you
That's what
go.
it is. All right, man. Let's shift gears. We still got a couple more things to talk about.
Sure.
Time be a ticking. But we're
Hmm.
talking modern comics with the mail order, so let's keep that trend alive because news has hit the comics world. We've been rocked, Chris. Oh my God, I am shook to my very core. Can you tell?
I am
I know
gobsmacked.
some of your
Yeah.
favorite subject matter ever is
Hmm.
about to cross your plate.
Oh
But
boy.
listen, it is
Oh
important.
boy.
It is. We've talked about the absolute power, the tie-ins, everything else, and that's going to be leading
Hmm.
into this absolute universe, which is basically a copycat of Marvel's Ultimates line. With
Hmm.
that, more news has dropped this week on All In. DC All In. It's going to be a special that's going to let readers kind of know where the if only I had a nickel for every time I keep saying the word universe. It's like horses now.
Hmm.
But where the DCU is going to stand going forward. We have our personal opinions on these things. I think we should share them. So I don't know if you'd
Hmm.
like me to lead off or for you to lead off.
You can lead off.
All right, just for those who maybe aren't.
You're more familiar with the
All
news.
right, well, for those who aren't aware or in the know, I guess, or just, don't use the World Wide Web. DC, as I mentioned, is doing their version of the Ultimates line, but with that, it's going to run concurrent with the regular titles. All these titles, main titles, the majority of them will get new creative teams. I think it's October. For example, I showed you Nightwing. Tom Taylor's leaving Nightwing, new creative team going on that, new writer and artist. Something I'm totally so excited for is Joshua Williamson is going to remain on Superman, but the new artist will be Dan Mora. So the dude, that's like, what? For real? Oh my God, I'm so there. I'll buy two. Come on. Tom Taylor is taking over Detective Comics. Mark Waid
Thank goodness.
is jumping on Action Comics, which is going to be weird because it's the first 3 issues. I don't know if it's going to be 3 issues total, but it's coming out weekly, which seems like get your sticky fingers off my wallet, because that's $5 a week if you were paying cover price. Little steep there, guys.
Sure.
But
I mean, even with the discount, that's up there.
right, exactly. But the all-in special, supposedly many things will be explained, and how the DC cast of characters will be handled going forward. Now, personally, how many times have I stood upon the mountain and screamed, listen, there's room enough for everybody and everything, right? Something I've wanted for God knows how long is a continuity-based line on newsprint. I think that would be outstanding. That would just be like, I'd keel over and die if they announced that. I'd be like, oh my God, they heard me. I don't know how, but they heard me. So to know that there's an absolute universe running side by side with the DC universe, I'm fine with that. Buy it, don't buy it. Choice is yours. I'm probably going to buy some of the stuff because, of course, they're going to have the Superman book, so they got me,
Sure.
Yet again, you can still have opinions on the reasoning behind it, the impetus on why they're even doing this to begin with. Something I mentioned to you, and also in line with a topic that you've brought up on the show, was like the stages of fandom, which you had gotten from a wrestling promoter who wielded tennis rackets. So the first thing that came to mind was one of the rules, or part of that list, was you have fans that are never going to come no matter what you do, but yet you're still creating things for those fans. In many ways, I think the absolute DC Absolute Universe almost falls into that category, because you had shouted, because you demanded it. Who's demanded this? Who wanted it so bad that they had to put Scott Snyder at the helm of this new, I don't want to use the U word again, new line of comics reinventing the mainstay characters. You know what I mean?
For
so,
sure.
I don't know, man. Here I am again. I'm waffling. I'm not being committal either which way. The early descriptions on the Superman book strike me as odd, because it's going to be written by Jason Aaron, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But they're basically saying, okay, well, he doesn't have a family anymore. There's no Ma and Pa Kent. He doesn't have the Fortress of Solitude. He doesn't, he's probably not going to be Clark Kent reporter at the Daily Planet. And to me, honestly, on a surface level, I think not all those things, but his parents in particular, are very important to the nature of the character. And one of the reasons why I love Superman is because he's good for the sake of being good, and those values, that core, came from
we're baked
in from Ma and Pa Kent, over the years. But that to me is a staple of the character. So if you strip that away, what kind of Superman are you giving me? The initial design looks cool. He's got floppy hair, 5 o'clock shadow, powered up wrists. I don't have an image ready here to show you, but you can all do your homework if you are interested in maybe checking this out. But yeah, that leads me to wonder what's going on here. Batman, he doesn't have Alfred, doesn't have the money. Okay, all right, I can understand. Wanted to try something different, stripping things down, kind of assembling things, putting things back together, leaving some screws on the side. But as we all know, that can be a wee bit dangerous. But jury's still out. What are your...
Sure. We don't know anything yet.
We don't. That's, again, here we are. This is the surface, the skim on top of the pudding
postulating,
that we're picking at here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And Did I want it? No. Do I need it? No. But at the same time, it does kind of remind me of me saying, give me a certain line for this type of fan. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But what type of fan is
Okay.
this servicing?
It's servicing completionists, just like everything in
Mm,
comics. You know, we talked about those Walmart books a while
sure.
ago. It's like, these are for the new fans. No, they're not. No, they're
Yeah.
not. They're for
Uh huh.
us. They're for the people who've been here who already own 80% of the material that's in these $5
Sure.
books. We're the completionists. Um, I don't think this is going to be a thing where comic shop owners are going to say, wow, the doors have been blown off the building here because people are coming in to get these books. It's just going to be like, oh, those people who already come here for DC and Marvel books decided to pick Absolute Batman
Yeah.
up. I mean, that's all it's going to be. And what little we do know is that they're launching with like 7 or 8 books.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I think Martian Manhunter's getting his own book, so it's
Jesus.
basically the Justice League, you know?
Yeah, but it's like, and you know they're going to be $5 each.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big
It
ask,
is. This is true.
especially when that's going to be what's promoted over the classic books.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Superman, as much as we love the book and the
Mm-hmm.
character, it's a second or third string book now compared to everything else, compared to everything with Bat on it. You
Yeah.
know, it's going to, and it's just going to be pushed down even more. You know, Absolute Superman will sell like crazy at first, I'm
Yeah,
sure of
right.
it. And it'll be 9.8s and,
Slabs.
you know,
Yeah,
slabbed. And yeah, it's going to be
right.
ridiculous. It's going to be stupid, you know, and they're each probably going to have 17 covers at least. So, I mean, we're cannibalizing our own shelves. If you're DC, you're cannibalizing your own stuff. And for what? Not because we demanded it, because we
Mm.
didn't. We did demand an Absolute line back in the early 2000s. We didn't get it. You know, they tried with All Star Superman and All Star Batman and Robin, but that didn't work.
No.
They did All Star Wonder Woman, and that was supposed to be coming out concurrently with those two, and it was pushed off years and then put out as a trade that nobody read. You know, and here I just see it as very short sighted, which is a lot of DC for me. Even going back to the New 52, very, very short sighted. You're throwing away all this goodwill. You're throwing away all this history to beat Marvel in the sales charts for 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, Chris,
Is that what
another
this
thing that
is?
they're trying to do, which I'm like, stop talking to me like I'm a moron, is they're like, well, hey, here's the thing, right? This is going to be a great jumping on point for new readers, even with the main books, you know? And it's like, you're trying to sell me something here, and you're selling too hard. And by doing
Hmm.
so, you're throwing stuff at me I didn't want to be sold to begin with. You know what I mean? Wherein,
So
yeah.
let's say you're a new
Mm-hmm.
reader who happened to fall into a comic book store, and you look at the shelf and you see Superman and Absolute Superman. Which one are you going to think is the new reader friendly one?
Yeah, absolute.
Probably the one that just says
Oh,
Superman.
really? No, I would say absolute, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Really? I mean, because how many other adjectived Superman books are out
Oh,
every month?
true. I,
Miniseries, one
I
shots.
understand, but
We have Batman Off World, Batman Dark Age, Batman, you know, the Man Who Laughs. I mean, we have all this
yeah.
stuff. But if you see Batman, you're gonna be like, oh, that's the book I need to
Okay,
read.
title alone,
Not
I get
absolute.
it. But
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
when you see emo Superman on the cover compared to traditional, you've seen it a billion times
You're gonna
Superman.
you're gonna think it's a what an imaginary
You know,
story.
I was gonna say a new reader
And
might
when
be
you
like,
read,
"Ooh, what's this? What's going on here?" You know, and when we talk about the Giants, you're right. It didn't achieve what it was supposed to. I would think,
mhm,
okay, yet here we are going into smoke shops, buying stuff in convenience stores. When we were kids, you'd be in the supermarket, you'd be at the checkout stand, there'd be comics there, you
sure,
pick things up. In many ways, I could see how the Giants would have been initially designed to serve that need. The problem is, it's a different
it's
time,
a
it's
different
a different
world,
era.
hmm
Kids don't need that
hmm
stuff
and a different
anymore.
price.
Boom, boom, that too as well. No matter
Hmm.
how things, it's like this isn't a reboot. This isn't a relaunch. It's just a new jumping on
Hmm.
point for readers because they almost sense like enough is enough. We've had enough. We don't want another reboot. We're gonna revolt if you give us another
And
reboot. You know?
maybe tell good
Mm,
stories. You know, it's like those 4 types of fans. You know, when the some people just buy comics, some will buy them when they know they're good.
yeah.
make sure they're
Yeah,
good.
no, that's it.
Anytime DC would get too experimental, I remember Reggie would say, until they can put out a Legion of Superheroes book that is
Hmm.
good and that sells, they need to stop experimenting.
Yeah.
Because Legion of Superheroes is just so DC. I don't care for it. I don't get it, but I get what it
Hmm.
is. It's so DC. Nobody else can put out a Legion of Superheroes book. Marvel can't, Image can't. It has to be DC. So until they can do that and make it good and make it sell, maybe we don't do Electric Warrior miniseries. Maybe we don't throw out Vigilante Southland.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't do absolute Martian
Yeah.
Manhunter.
Right. Well.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, and it's going to do
Mm.
great. It's going to do great at first. Um, I just see it as, I had a lot of project management training. I went to like PMP boot camp and stuff like that, where a project is defined in this case as something that isn't intended to last forever,
Okay.
but it will serve something that is forever. So, like if you have a business, that's not a project. But if you're planning to expand your business or maybe open up another branch, that's that's a project. That's something that has a beginning and a middle and an
Hmm.
end. It's going to go away. I feel like they need some project managers in comics publishing now because nobody's worried about anything like that. It's all about your eyes are darting everywhere. Are
Yeah,
you
I'm
okay?
fine. I was just
Oh,
looking at
your eyes were
stuff on the computer.
darting.
Oh, really? You thought I was having a
Oh,
seizure in real
I
time?
didn't know. I wasn't sure. Um, so yeah, there you go. You keeled over.
I'm coming to visit
It
you
was an
tomorrow morning.
absolute heart attack. Yeah. Yeah, come
No, I was
watch
looking
me.
at stuff on the computer. I'm
Go to
sorry.
the irrigation store again.
Right.
But this line here, it feels very
Hmm.
short-sighted. Um, I don't know if I said this on the air or off the air, but it's like DC isn't worried about the reader of 2025, 2020, 2026,
Hmm.
2027. They're worried about the reader in October 2024. And that's it. And it's like once you get past that first issue, just like with the new 52, it just everything just becomes
Hmm.
normal. It's not special anymore. It's just, oh, this is the next part of this book.
Well,
And people drop off. It just doesn't seem, and I mean, I'm not a bean counter, I'm not an accountant. I have very little real business experience, so I have absolutely no right to say anything. But as a consumer, maybe I mean, we have a really good Batman book right now. It had a little lull, but it's a good book. The Zarsky stuff is good. But if you were to like go to Bleeding Cool or is Newsarama even still a thing? If you go
I don't
there,
know, to be honest.
are yeah, are they talking about Chip Zdarsky's Batman? No, they're probably talking about the what was that, the Kryptonian Age, the Gotham by
Hmm.
Gaslight, or they're talking about the prequel to the Long Halloween nobody asked for. They're not talking about the main book. It's very short-sighted because that's the book that's going to be here, and it's a good book. So maybe tell people about it.
Well,
I
I'll
don't
tell
know.
you what. Absolute Batman's going to start fantastic. It's a Scott Snyder ditty,
Oh,
so it's going to be great. It's
sure.
just it's not going to finish good. So I mean,
I think we talked about this last time. It's probably going to become the no huddle
yes,
of the
yes, that's
DC
what you
universe.
said.
So it's
Right,
like,
I remember
okay,
that now.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we had Death in the Family. Okay, what happens right after that? Oh, A Lonely Place for Dying. Okay, what's next?
Mm.
Nightfall. Okay, it's going to
Well,
jump,
yet again,
and I could be completely.
jury's still out.
I could be.
Let's see where it goes. You buying the titles? You going to buy any of them?
I'll probably buy the first issues.
Of all of them?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't really look to see who was on the creative teams. I know one of your favorite writers is on Green Lantern, I think.
Oh God, no. Yeah, thank God it's only Green Lantern because imagine he put. Well, listen, if he got put. All right, all right. I had to endure Philip Kennedy Johnson's action for so long,
Hmm. Hmm.
excruciating, painful.
Well, it's not him.
Huh?
It's not him, is
He
it?
is. He's doing the Green Lantern.
I thought it was Al
Oh, Al
Ewing.
Ewing. He's on. Dude, I gotta look these up. Hold on.
Okay, I know he's on one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. All right. You're right. You're correct. He is on one of them. Al Ewing.
Okay.
How many writers do I not like? Jesus, stick my hand into a hat and pull them out. My eyes are gonna be starting to go cuckoo. Um, yeah, maybe he was on Martian Manhunter, was it, or something? But you're right. One was on
Oh
Green
no, I thought it was
Lantern.
Green Lantern. Yeah.
But as I do this and I look this up, dude, my preparation today is terrible. Huh? I got to keep referring to my phone.
Hey, it's
But like
live.
you said too about like the stories, like this is good. This is here right now. It's kind of what I was mentioning too about Swamp Thing number 56 when we were talking about the sweet
Hmm.
spot books. The story is so good, but it's not considered a monumental issue. It's not a first appearance,
Sure.
so it's worth in the bins only a couple dollars. But to me, the story is so good it should be worth
Hmm.
$1 billion.
Sure.
Here we go. Anyway, so after this, we're gonna talk some Bada Babble. We got some
Cool.
emails to cover here. Here we go. Creative teams for DC's new Absolute line revealed. Scroll down, scroll down. Don't fail me now. Absolute Comics. Looking for freaking Al Ewing on here. It doesn't say. Damn, I got the wrong article. Anyway, we'll get back into this later. How about this? Let's move into some Bada Babble, and
Let's do
then
it.
I will look for the writers who I can't stand and what they are writing. Does that sound good?
I
All
like it.
right.
I like it. I will hop into the email bag here. We're going to talk to our friend Chris
Okay,
Yoon.
awesome.
And he says, let's bada babble.
Nice.
He says, I took Dave's advice and I read Absolute Power number
Oh,
1. I was halfway through it and thinking I'd already read it. Turns out I hadn't read it, but I'd watched a video reviewing it just a few days before. The art was brilliant and the story was well paced, but it didn't grab me. I don't think I'll read anything further, but that just cements my belief that modern comics are just not for me. Give me those Bronze Age classics. But on the positive, Dave got me to download a copy of Legends, so I will be enjoying that in the days to come. There
all
you
right.
go. Very
Right on. And
cool.
hold that email real
Yeah.
quick because I
Okay.
am on the page I need. My
Good,
thumb
good,
is
good.
doing the work now.
Mm-hmm.
I am scrolling
Let your
down.
finger do the
My
hunting.
thumb is doing the hunting. It's not a regular finger, it's the thumb. Let's see. Al Ewing.
That's segregational.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Did I just lose it? Oh, my God. Where is he?
You're not going to make me pollute my computer by going to Bleeding Cool
No, 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 no,
myself,
no, no,
are
no,
you?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
Just, I thought I had it, and I didn't have it because I'm a foolish man.
I could I could scroll up on our text for where you sent me that article, but that'll take a
I know.
while.
Look at that. All right, keep going with the email. I screwed up. Jeez.
Okay. Oh, there's a picture of my little dorm fridge.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Um, the 90s speculation bubble was instrumental in changing my comics buying habits. Before the death of Superman, I never had a pull list. I never ordered my comics and had them held. I would just walk into my comic shop on Thursday and I'd pick up everything I wanted off the shelves. When I walked into my regular shop and couldn't find a copy of Superman 75, I was shocked. I had to go to 2 other stores to get one. And that was only possible because the shop that was because that shop was only selling one per customer, which is the way they all should have done it. So that is how I got my standard version of Superman 75. A week later, I'm back at my regular shop and he had one copy of the polybagged edition for sale at the counter for $75. So I bought it because I'm dumb. After that, I started ordering everything I wanted every month. And yeah, oh God, I've told the story before about going to the flea market the night that the Death of Superman came out, and how every single stand at the flea market, whether they sold clothes or pottery or frying pans or comics, they all had a copy of the polybagged Superman 75, and they had it for varying prices, as low as like $50 up to $200. It was just ridiculous. It was a ridiculous scene. Do you have any familiar similar stories, similar
As
experiences?
far as what now? I'm sorry, I was looking at this. And you were right.
Oh,
Al
that
Ewing is going to be doing Green Lantern, but I could swear. Oh, you know what it is?
hmm,
Philip Kennedy Johnson is taking over.
he has a Green Lantern
He
now,
does
right?
the War Journal, but he's taking over another
Yeah,
book. Boy, but anyway,
right.
what was the question again? I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
We're talking about the extreme overvaluation of the polybag version of Superman
Oh,
75 in the days and weeks after
yeah.
release.
I had.
Before Wizard came out and said this is a
Yeah,
$10
right.
book.
When that was all going down, I had no interest in it whatsoever. So there was no
Okay,
hunting for me trying to find the black bag or anything. I was at home watching
gotcha.
stuff on TV with the local news, and I'm
Hmm.
just amazed comics are even like being talked about whatsoever. But I was like,
Sure, sure.
yeah, let those fools have their fun. I'm all set.
Let them
Yeah,
have it.
exactly. And sure enough, I ended up getting my copy way later for pennies on the freaking dollar.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, those things are in the bins for yeah, the prices do vary. I've seen them. I was at a used bookstore the other day, and they had a copy of it. They had that and the white polybagged, and they wanted $250 for the two of
What?
them. It's
Get
like,
out of
yeah,
here.
yeah, for 75, and then Adventures
Yeah.
500, they wanted 250. It's like, you gotta be kidding me.
What? Dude,
Who in the hell?
is it the same guy? Is it the guy from Old Con, the one who was trying to sell, wanted
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hundred
it's
dollars for
old
the
man con,
Justice League
yeah.
#3?
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Holy moly!
But yeah, like at that flea market that night, seeing them for like 200 bucks. It was like the first time as a comic fan that I thought I owned something that was going to be like life changing, because I got it for cover price, 250, and it's like that's $200 already. In a year it'll be 1,000. It's like the ridiculous pie in the sky speculating of a 12-year-old
Well,
idiot.
dude, in all fairness, it did change your life. It changed all of our
It
lives.
did.
So,
Yeah,
as far
it
as
did.
comics and the monumental effects they can have on pop culture,
Hmm.
society, you know,
Sure.
dude, it may not be worth what everybody thought it was going to be worth, but the death of Superman, Superman #75, deserves a place in
Seminal
Mount
moment.
Rushmore
Hmm.
as far as
Oh
just
yeah,
like changing the culture. You know what I mean?
for
Oh,
sure.
big time.
For sure. Chris continues. He says, since I no longer have physical comic books and don't buy modern comics, the modern speculation craze doesn't really affect me. I'm one of those old crazies that only cares about the stories. Imagine if we cared about the stories anymore. I mean, we're talking about new number ones and variant covers. Nobody's talking about the stories anymore. But it seems to me that the modern collector audience shrinks the comic. Oh, as the modern comics audience shrinks, the comics companies need to create a way of making one person buy more than one copy of the same book. And variant covers are what they're using to make up the difference. The Jim Lee X-Men #1 wouldn't be the best selling comic of all time if it didn't have 5 different covers that everyone who was buying felt they needed to buy all of. And that's true. And it's like we talked about either last week or the week before. There was a time where, I mean, variant covers are nothing new. I just showed one off from 40 years ago. And I remember what was it, Heroes Reborn or Heroes Return? Every #2 issue from Marvel would have 2 covers. It was a silly little gimmick. It's the second issue. Okay, every issue #2 has 2 covers. Cool, whatever. So it used to be an extra, but now it's baked into the entire deal. It's required now. People buy more than one in order to keep things going. It's expected, it's not a bonus. It ain't gravy anymore. It's actually the meat. Chris continues. Unless someone discovers an unknown copy of Action Comics #1 in their great grandfather's cedar chest, no one is ever going to get rich selling those comics they speculated on. And that's a question that Reggie and I would ask a lot. You know, because comics have a long and short history. It's only a century, which doesn't seem long in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a century. It's a long time. And we would talk about how in that time there are how many books that are life changing in any way. Whether it be value or, I would always say like comics have been around for 80 something years and there maybe have been 5, 10 out of 10 books,
Right.
period.
Absolutely.
Because 10 means perfect. So there's only been about 5 of them in history. I couldn't name you what they are, but I'm sure there aren't many more than that if there are. Um, but on the topic of financial and value, how many books are there in the past 80 some odd years that will change your life if you had it and sold it? And like Chris says here, Action Comics #1. That's definitely one of them. I figure maybe Detective 27.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those landmark issues. And yet again, we're
Yeah.
always talking about how things were originally rare.
It, it ain't gonna be Spider Boy number
No,
one.
no, unless you get 20 copies of it
No.
and you sell them all at once to the same sucker. Yeah,
Yeah, the same idiot,
yeah,
right? You get them all 9.8'd, and then you get them moved right
exactly.
away.
Hey, real quick, is
Um,
Batman and
sure.
Robin. Philip Kennedy Johnson is taking over. Batman and Robin. So,
Oh,
yes.
okay. So that's a book I don't even have to drop
Correct.
because
I
I'm not buying it
There you
anyway.
go. Joshua Williamson is
Yeah.
leaving the book and he's taking over. Paint drying,
Okay.
terrible. Just I do not like him as a writer. Probably a fantastic human being, wonderful guy, I'm sure. Blah as far as writing. So,
I've only read one thing that he's
mhm.
written, and it was Action Comics 1051, because it went to that anthology format,
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
I thought it might be fun to kind of piggyback my Action Comics daily with
Yeah.
this, new take on an anthology version of
Mhm.
Action. And I read that first chapter, and I wasn't in it.
Yeah, no, it
No,
was that was like I was
that
praying,
wasn't it.
dude, legit, like get him off the book. Save me. Somebody
Yeah.
help me. God, it's like
I didn't
drowning.
I didn't read any of the Warworld
Oh,
stuff because it was like unending. I was like, oh, I'll read this one as more of it out, but then it just wouldn't
no, it
stop.
was
It's same with Gotham Nocturne and Detective. It's like, oh, I'll read this one more if it comes out, and it's like, oh my God, we're at part
yeah.
300. When is this
And
gonna
that's
go
why
away?
the moment I said Tom Taylor was taking over Detective Comics, you were like, yeah, all right.
I mean, yeah,
New
tell me
blood.
some
Give me something
stories,
new.
please.
Yeah, right
Yeah,
on.
for
I'm sorry,
sure,
and
for
I'm sorry to
sure.
hack into this email segment. It took me like 15, 20
No, no, no,
minutes
it's all good.
to look all this stuff up or whatever, but I wanted
Mm.
to make sure
So
I was given honest, hard core, truthful reporting on the Bada Bin show.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Got to. We are podcast
there we go.
journalists.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that. So you're gonna get that Al Ewing book though,
No,
right?
I would not. I don't,
What?
dude. What's going on with like the writers I really don't care for writing the Hulk, a character I absolutely love, and making it so I cannot buy the book because I consider it just piss poor. Like for real. But anyway, I guess that's a another put a pin in it for another day.
No,
Mm.
I didn't read anything of Ewing's. All I knew was that he kind of acted like a twat on social media, blocking people for no
Yeah.
reason. So I didn't want to like anything he wrote. So when he came onto the X books during the X Lapse days, I was like, oh man. And since I'm an all or nothing
Mm-hmm.
podcaster, it's like I can't like not cover it. So it's like I remember going into it, I'm like I might have some bias here because as a quote unquote content creator myself, I couldn't imagine blocking people who wanted to follow me on social
Right.
media.
But didn't you
That
say
just
some of
seems
his stuff wasn't
wrong-headed.
half bad?
It was really
Yeah.
good. It was really good, and that's when I knew I matured as a content creator because I was able to say that in spite of not wanting
Yeah,
to.
sure.
And I'm
Hey.
like, damn it, this is
Mm-hmm.
good. This is good stuff. I don't know that I'll be there for his Green Lantern, but I'm sure I'll try the first issue. We'll see, or I'll buy the
Okay.
first issue. I don't know if I'll read it, but we'll think about it. We'll put a pin in it and see
Here we
what's
go.
what. Back to Chris's email here. He says the book of the Superman radio scripts from last time is something I find interesting. I may have to search eBay to see if I can find one. But while I was watching, I went picture in picture, and I did order a copy of But I Digress off Amazon. I didn't know those columns had been collected. Well, I hope you dig it. There is a second volume of it. I think it came out more recently, when because Peter David's had some health issues of late, and I think they put it out as a way to raise funds. But I can't find it anywhere where the money will actually go to him.
Mm-hmm.
As if I because it's not a cheap book. I think it's like 30 or 40 bucks, and if I'm paying that kind of money and it's to support him, I want it to go to him. So I don't want it to go to Giants fan 6969 on eBay. He's just going to be a character on the show now. Giants fan
There you go. That's
6969.
not what showers were
Uh,
designed for.
True. Yeah. Watch
Mm.
yourself. Um, but I know there's another one out there. It's like called like Further Digressions or something like that. Maybe one of these days I'll find it in a
No,
way that'll actually help Peter
I
David.
don't
Probably
want you to
not.
go anywhere near any of that stuff ever again. Burn it with fire.
Yeah, it did
Yeah,
set me on a
dude,
path.
no. Bad stuff. Not a good book. Bleh. See you later, alligator.
Yeah, it set me on a bad
Mm.
path here. A lot of midlife and whatever life crisis things hitting me
Yeah.
hard.
No.
really, really
Right.
bad. But the first half of the book is good. The second half I didn't really have much use for. It's about Star Trek and movies and kind of uh, self-filleting a little bit. I don't know. When the back half wasn't as good as the first
Well,
half.
I want to
But
make a plea to Chris you right now directly. I'm going to look right into
mhm.
the camera. Do you remember the episode of the Brady Bunch when they go to on a family trip to Hawaii and there's that little tiki,
They
the
find the tiki
tiki
doll.
that brings bad luck to everyone who possesses the tiki? There's surfing accidents, terrible things ensue. That's but I
Spiders in the
spiders. Yeah, there you go.
spiders in the sleeping bag. Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, was that one or was that when they went to the Grand Canyon? Anyway, but
Don't
I
remember.
digress.
Yeah.
That book is bad juju, man.
Bad juju.
All right? So be careful. Be careful with that. You might need to bless it with something. You might need to keep it in a vat of salt. I don't know.
you're you're gonna think about the mid '90s and yearn for your life to come
There
back to
you
you.
go. Exactly. So, Chris, you careful, guy.
You're gonna be woken up. You're gonna be woken up by the dial-up sound from
I
AOL.
appreciate the emails every week. I want them to keep coming in, but this book,
Hmm.
bad juju.
Something
All
to
right.
it.
Anyway,
Chris continues. Says, for the record, if there was a book collecting the scripts from the Cosmic Treadmill, I'd buy 2 copies. One to read and one for the bookshelf. This is coming from a guy who's working his way through all of the Chris's on Infinite Earths blog posts in order from the beginning. I want to read every word that Chris has
wow.
written. I wish I was as creative. Dude, I, I, I wish I was as creative as you are. That means a lot. Aim higher. But yeah, I wasn't. I should have read this before it went on the air. Thank you. That means a lot. Uh, Back to his email. My question to you this week is: since Marvel has brought back the Ultimate Universe in a new form, which canceled comics line would you like to see revived? Maybe 2099, Marvel UK, the New Universe, or Malibu, or Comics Greatest World? Huh. What do you
They got
think?
to bring back Star Comics, Planetary Forever. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think the story arc, the grand overreaching arc of Planetary, was fully fulfilled or finished.
Didn't didn't they bring Planetary into the main Marvel
Did
universe
they
though?
for real? Well,
I
that
think
didn't do
so.
it justice then. That's all I got to say about that. Planetary was done dirty. So Star Comics all the way. Let's bring it back. And you know what? In jest, I'm saying this right because I don't have a great, honest answer to hit you with right off the bat. And plus,
Sure.
I was put on the spot when you're like, "What about you?" I didn't have a chance to think.
That's what I
But
do.
I guess it's going to be in line with the whole like so many years too late. But having that all ages reader line, whatever, was a good thing back in the '80s. You would think they would have tapped into that market again somehow, but alas, where are we now? Most kids read manga on the shelves of Barnes and Nobles and don't even buy it.
Don't even buy
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
so that would take a little bit more thought as far as like what I would personally want to see
Hmm.
to kind of fulfill my fandom and something I just love. As far as a line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's really a tough. Okay, you could say a title, you could say a character, bing, bang, boom.
Hmm.
That's easy, right? You can come up with any of those off the top of your head. But a line is much
Sure.
more of a specific thing. You
For
know what I
sure.
mean? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do.
What do you got
I
there,
do.
kiddo?
Um, Proto Vertigo. Before Vertigo became
Mm-hmm.
Vertigo, those books that would become Vertigo were in their little corner of the DC
Okay.
universe, but they kind of had one foot in, one foot out. Things like Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, Animal Man, Shade the Changing Man, Constantine. I thought that was, and I didn't experience that as it was happening. I experienced that, in back issue
Sure.
bins. Sandman, even Sandman had the Justice League show up, you know, in the early issues. So I loved that because it was actually a mature reader's line that wasn't so far out,
Okay.
where you still had that one foot in the DCU. I know DC tried like the dark stuff, like the JL Dark, which sounds like a fifth grader named it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very very silly. But I do miss those, and I wasn't there for them, but I have read them in the interim. I love the idea of a Shade the Changing Man. kind of in the DCU. Doom Patrol is made to be in the DCU, but it's weird
Mm-hmm.
too. Um, just such a fun time. It's a time that I'm nostalgic for that I didn't even experience. And I don't know that they could do something like that again
Right.
because how many damn lines do we have now? Black Label, Sandman Universe. How many damn things do we need? Um, but I do pine for those days. It just felt like like even when you read the stuff from Karen Berger, the little publishatorials or whatever the Vertigo version of that
Mm-hmm.
was, it felt like you were part of a club reading about just this little group of characters, and you didn't know if they were going to be like Superman showed up during the painting that ate Paris and Doom Patrol. Just cool stuff like that.
Well, I never thought
Don't know. I think
I
that's
didn't
fun.
think Swamp Thing should have been a Vertigo title to begin with, um, because he is
Sure,
so connected with the regular DC universe. But
of course.
Vertigo itself is super important. I get it. Adult reading,
Hmm.
but really, is Vertigo. If you look at the Vertigo title, it's the same as having for
Hmm.
mature readers, and just taking away from
Yeah,
mature readers and sticking that in the corner box instead.
making it its own
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like you said, it's impossible now because you got so many
No.
lines. I mean, remember when he was a vocalist for a band, Gerard Way, had Young
Yep.
Animal,
Young
you
Animal.
know, um,
Me and Reggie covered every single Young Animal
yeah,
book.
right. So it's like Young Animal was also
Hmm.
like, I remember at the time was like, hey man, you missed Vertigo. Well, now we're coming out with Young Animal, and it's like,
Yep.
um,
Vertigo was still around at
oh
that point.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
And that's when they were announcing Black Label, and that's when they were doing when Young Animal was wrapping up. That's when Sandman Universe kicked off. So it's like all these boutique imprints that nobody could
yeah.
define. And then like Bendis was there with Wonder It's like what are we? Oh, huh?
You know,
Okay.
to cross the streams a little bit as well is there was an NML Crossing episode you did where Chris you wrote in
Mm-hmm.
and you guys were talking about
Uh-huh.
Poison Ivy, Swamp Thing, and
Oh, the
yeah,
Elementals.
being a
Yeah.
big Swamp Thing fan, I've never cared for Poison Ivy, and I thought like her addition is like being a member
Mm-hmm.
of the Green. Da, da, da. I'm like, she's plant based, he's plant based, so they just thought it works.
Why not? Yeah.
And just now, when I was searching for that, what was Philip Kennedy Johnson writing, I saw Solicits for October, and they're doing a Poison Ivy Swamp Thing special.
Okay.
And it pains me because I really want Swamp Thing to have an ongoing book, but I like him to have a title.
Sure.
And to have now, I'm gonna have to buy this, and it's a Poison Ivy thing. I'm like, oh man.
Who's writing it? Is it Willow
G
Wilson?
Willow Wilson.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. So bummer, bummer, bummer. But
mm-hmm.
yes. Oh, and real quick, as far as I know, you probably don't want to discuss it, so I'm sorry in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But him saying that he'd like to read everything you wrote. I know the waterworks are about to start there, my friend. But
It's pollen. It's the
yes,
damn
but do you
irrigation.
remember how excited I was because the episode Twilight of Superheroes I thought was one of the best podcasts I've ever heard in my life. So if you guys ever get the chance, just ask your smart device, Chris and Reggie's Cosmic Treadmill, Twilight of the Superheroes. Listen to it. I urge you. I recommend it. But you sent me the script for that, and I loved it.
Oh, I did.
You
I
did.
did.
It's a
Okay.
treat for me, and I was so pleased. I was pleased as punch that you did that. So there is basis to your
There
scripts
you
and your
go.
writing meaning something to somebody. Okay, there, buddy.
There you go. Now that was a hell of an episode to do. Because that's one of the few times that I brought something up that Reggie had no idea of.
Right.
He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's something we gotta
Gotta
do."
do it, baby. And it
And
was great.
uh,
Fantastic.
it was fun.
Remember that. Twilight of the Superheroes,
Twilight of the
Chris and Reggie's
Superheroes.
Cosmic Treadmill. And that was Weird Comics history, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
check it out.
That was way early, like 2017,
Yeah, that was a
probably.
long time ago. But it was
Long time.
fantastic. And anytime anybody I ever see online start talking about that era, the Twilight of the Superhero stuff, I'm like, you got to listen
Mhm.
to this. Like, there've been people promoting their own podcasts. I'm like, I'm sure you guys did great. Yeah, wonderful. But you should be really listening to this. So,
Yeah, because DC finally released it.
oh, really? Did they?
Not in comics format, just the
Ah,
script.
okay.
Yeah, because for a while they were like they were doing like cease and desists. Like if anybody posted it, they'd get a letter from DC saying to take it down. Because even though they didn't accept it, they owned it. And then I don't remember which book they put it in, It might have just been like an Alan Moore DC
Mm-hmm.
collection, but they put the script at the end of
Oh,
it or something like that.
interesting.
So people who never heard of it now knew about it and were suddenly experts
Okay,
on it.
there you
So
go. Spreads
there
like
you go.
wildfire. And my earbuds just
It
told me the
does.
power is going to die.
Doo-doo,
I
doo-doo.
did get these just in case as backup, but
Hey,
how much left do we have of the email? Because we should probably hit the road pretty soon.
that's
That's
it.
it?
Yeah, that's it. He asked about the imprints or the lines that we like, and unfortunately, Marvel has already done 2099
Mm.
into the ground. They brought back Marvel UK. They did like a Revolutionary War story back in like 2014 or so. New Universe, Warren Ellis tried to remake that as New Universal, and that was not very good. Malibu, the Ultraverse stuff would be interesting to see, but I guess the way those original contracts were written, they would have to pay too much to the creators of those books. So I guess that'll never happen. And I mean, really, as fun as it would be, and I'm a big fan of everything mattering. You know, like even though I wasn't there for it, the Charlton Heroes coming into DC
Mm-hmm.
Comics after Crisis, I thought that's just awesome. I love the idea of that. So if we could bring like the Ultraverse characters into the Marvel universe, I think that'd be super cool. But I mean, it probably won't
All right.
happen. Comics Greatest World, was that Dark Horse?
I believe
Was
so. Yes, that was.
like Barbed Wire was
Or was
part
that
of
World's
that?
Greatest Comics? But I think you're right. I think you're your finger on the pulse of the right thing
I,
here.
I'm remembering like a really gaudy logo. Yep, there it is. Yeah, so Comics Greatest World were, let's see here. Yeah, there was X was a character there. Rebel, Barbed Wire, Division 13, Out of the Vortex, Catalyst, Titan, Will to Power.
Mm.
Yikes. Machine. A lot of interesting stuff there. So yeah, I think I own a few copies of that Barbed Wire that came in like one of those mystery boxes I once bought, but nothing
Yeah.
else
Okay.
really.
All right. Well, there you go. Planetary it is. That's what we need. Star Comics. Bring back
Planetary.
Heathcliff, Dennis the Menace, whatever we got going on there. Biggity bam, biggity boom.
Some proto
Yeah.
Vertigo. Do a proto Vertigo anthology book once a month.
There you go.
You know, $6-7 book. I'll
Nope.
buy it.
Instead, you're getting the absolute Batman, baby.
Might even read it. Might even
That's what
read
you're
it.
getting. Getting absolute Green Lantern. Al
Need
Ewing.
it. Absolute Martian
Right.
Manhunter. Need it.
All right. Well, I think that does it because again, my earbuds keep chirping, saying, "Hang up, hang up. We're gonna die."
Hmm.
So
It's
we should
all
probably hit the
done.
road. Next week we should be back. Chris, you don't have any problem with that, do you?
As far as I know,
Yeah,
I
I,
don't.
I think Friday would work for me, so hopefully it works for you. So make sure if you're watching the show, email us, please. We want more questions,
Please do.
more comments, more whatever you got to give. It doesn't matter. Anything that's on the top of your head, feel free to share. I will be your therapist,
Hmm.
not necessarily for free. You might get a bill in the mail, but I am there for
Hmm.
you, as I'm sure Chris is as well.
Absolutely.
Chris, do you have anything you'd like to say to the people? Do you have anything you'd like to add before we do, in fact, hit the road?
No, just thank you for. I know it's a big ask
Mm.
to watch a show that I don't know how many hours we've been going right now, but we know it's a big ask, so we appreciate everybody who's made it this
Yeah.
far. Or Chris, we appreciate you being here. But yeah, it really means a lot
All
to
right.
us. So
Yeah,
thank you.
virtual
Thank
hugs
you
for
so
all of
much.
you. You all are awesome.
Absolutely.
And with that, we're hitting the road. We're getting the hell out of here. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the flippity flap, I suppose.
See ya.